Says he cannot guarantee the US won't default on its debt obligations later this month, putting the blame at the door of the Republican Party. And 2 American molecular biologists who discovered how human skin feels warmth have won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
According to a study released Thursday by the Princeton University Department of Biology, this local 2-year-old woodland chipmunk has crafted a far more secure and dependable plan for the future than 8 out of 10 Americans. Reporters spoke to citizens to get their view on the study.
Clearly, this chipmunk is pretty impressive. I mean, he wakes up every morning and says, I need to collect acorns and berries for the winter. He sets goals for himself and he gets it done.
If he has to make a burrow in a tree stump, that's exactly what he does. He doesn't pause and have a snack and lay around for a few hours.
Out of nearly 40 separate interviews with Americans, 33 told reporters they were very impressed by the chipmunk's continued display of foresight, personal responsibility, and pragmatic decision-making when considering his own future.
He's preparing for winter, he's building a home, and he's trying to get enough nutrients to make it throughout the rest of the day. All this while being worried about maybe getting eaten by a wolf or an owl or something. Earlier this week, the electricity went off in my home because I forgot to pay my bill. It's the second time this year.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want. All you got to do is dial in here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up, we all saw Gremlins today, and no, there's no particular reason for it. It's not like Gremlins 3 is coming out or anything like that, although they are talking about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some talk about that. With you tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
So coming up, we'll talk about Gremlins, doing like a classic movie review just because it was at the movie theater. And Bonnie and I went and saw it. We wanted to go with you, Aria, but your federal handler never got back to you?
I never sent the email, I learned.
Darn it.
I sent it, but I'm really losing patience with Sprint because even if I have like full LTE service, I don't seem to have internet.
Damn it.
So it just sort of got stuck in the outbox and then never actually left.
But first, something even more creepy than little monsters that go around and cause all kinds of chaos. In this case, we're talking about the preschools of New York.
So it does involve little monsters that
Well, in this
run
case,
around.
the monster is actually the teacher.
Yeah.
Whoever this woman is with this video. Now, I want to ask, before I play this clip, did you guys see the video of the little boy at the New York daycare that must have been no older than 2 or something like that, 3 maximum, and the woman that was trying to, it was 2 women, one woman was trying to put a mask on this little boy. He did not want anything to do with it.
I can't blame him.
Keeps pulling the mask down. Did you guys see this video?
I saw it when you were playing it.
I have not seen it.
It's one of the most disturbing videos of the year that I've seen in recent memory. It goes on for like almost 2 minutes straight of these just patronizing sounding women like, oh, Mason, you're a good boy. Yeah, wear the mask. It's all about your safety. And
he rips it off, and
Yeah.
they even snap it on him at one point. It looks like it hurt.
They keep trying to put this thing on him. And
So child abuse.
Yeah, it's very abusive, very scary, sick stuff. This is right along in that same vein. It may even be from the same daycare. I have no idea. It didn't come from the same source necessarily, but these videos get shared around. It definitely sounds like New York based on the audio that you're going to hear. This one is of what appears to be a preschool. Again, very, very young children. All of them are wearing masks, and they're all kind of lined up. There's maybe almost a dozen of them in the frame here, and it's being recorded by the teacher. And here is what they are being subjected to.
2, 3. I wear a mask to school. I wear a mask to school. Hi ho the Dario. I wear a mask to school. It helps to keep me safe. It helps to keep me safe. Hi ho the Dario. It helps to keep me safe.
Good Lord. Just the blatant propagandizing of an entire generation.
Yeah, these kids are, I don't know, no older than 3 or something, 3, 4. I'm not good at estimating that, but they're very, very young.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting there mostly quietly. Like, she wants them to sing along.
But they're wearing masks, so it's difficult to sing.
Yeah.
As it goes on, she does like 2 more verses, and they all just completely stop. Like, they just aren't singing along anymore. But most of them look okay with it. Like, they just are like, whatever. But there's a little boy in
this is all they know.
But there's a little boy in the bottom left who's just sitting there cross-legged with his hands in his lap crossed together, and he's just staring into space looking so miserable.
Yeah. Let me go on.
Well, he's at school.
There's only 10 more seconds here.
Safe. It keeps my friends safe. Hi-ho the dairy-o. It keeps my friends safe. And let me see a hooray! Put your hands up in the air!
That's it.
That was like such a sad hooray, too. They were like not that excited.
This is preschool today.
Yeah, all the more reason to homeschool your kids, honestly. Yep. But I mean, yeah, as you point out, this is all they know. These kids are like 3 years old, so they've been in this pandemic through half of their lives.
This is literally their entire conscious life.
Yes, they're going to be fine wearing masks for the rest of their life because they've been conditioned to from the earliest possible ages.
I just found this really sick, and it's the pressure that these kids are under to obey these diktats is just, it's unrelenting. I mean, they are dealing with this constantly from when they're at school to likely, their parents. I mean, if their parents haven't gotten them out of this situation yet, then they must support it.
Or they're not aware of it. I mean, it's possible the average parent out there just has no idea that their kid is being forced to sing this nonsense.
That's a good point. One of the things that was brought up with the other video where the little boy is being forced to wear the mask completely against his will,
which is a violation of his basic human rights.
One of the points that people brought up was, why did this woman put this, like the woman who was recording the video worked at the daycare. Why would she record that video and put it online with what they were doing to this boy? And the thing is, they're proud of this. They wanted mom to know how bad her little boy was being, so they had to take video of what was going on as the evidence, because it was actually the mom that had shared that particular video, and she didn't seem to appreciate what was going on.
I'm sure she didn't.
But again, she still let her son go to that school.
Her son is still going to that same school?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what the status of that is, but she didn't post the video with some sort of statement about how she's immediately pulling her son out of school. It was more like
she was acting like, "Oh, I have to put my kid through this every day."
Yeah, she acted like, "Oh, I have to do this to go to work," basically.
Which is unfortunate, but I mean, she put herself in that position when she had children.
That's true.
To be honest, and not being able to, have a career that allowed her to both raise a child and have a career, that's her own fault. Now the child is suffering as a result of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of parents, probably the majority of them don't plan, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just kids are an accident, and then they deal with it. And then they're stuck in situations like this where their parental autonomy is stripped away from them, and some harridan is, singing terrifying obedience songs at her children.
It seems like she just did this herself too. Like, she sounds so insufferable. It sounds like, I mean, it's only her and the kids. It seems like she's like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make up this song, and the kids are gonna sing with me.
It wouldn't surprise me if this is getting passed around.
I haven't seen it.
I mean, I had not seen this particular set of song lyrics before, but I have seen like images online of the supposed, you used to have like workbooks or worksheets when you were in elementary school or whatever. Some of the worksheets that these kids are being given are absolutely inculcating them with this stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if
their math word problems are like, Johnny is wearing 3 masks. He takes off 1 mask.
That kind
what
of
does
stuff.
Johnny have? And the kid answers, Johnny has COVID.
Right. Circle the right way to protect yourself, and you circle the mask. And
I remember having like worksheets to do that were just, what's the word? Climate change, fear. And even as a kid, I knew about that type of thing because my parents were so conservative. I was just like, oh my God, this is
You knew it was
stuff.
BS.
Yeah, this is the stuff my parents warned me about.
See, I didn't encounter that. Luckily, I mean.
Well, we're a little older
than
she is. But this is the kind of stuff, just like the climate change, they're cranking this stuff into these kids' heads, and it's just so sad. I mean, I feel so bad for these kids, especially the ones like this where they never knew another existence prior to this, and it's just terrifying.
It's sad the world didn't learn from Greta Thunberg what happens when you traumatize a child for their entire life and just constantly fearmonger them until they have psychotic breakdowns.
Is that what happened to her?
As far as I can tell, that's what happened to her. Is that, she just heard about climate change. I mean, just imagine being a kid and your entire life being raised to believe there's a secret shadow out there and it's going to kill you and everyone knows about the shadow, but no one is doing anything about it. Imagine being raised and hearing that every single day of your life.
Interestingly, I actually wasn't planning on bringing this up, but since you guys brought up the climate change thing, headline, this was just from 2 weeks ago. New study finds growing number of young people suffering from climate change anxiety.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I also saw today that Antarctica is experiencing the coldest year on record. But
well, that's because of climate change.
Damn it.
Oh,
clearly.
Wait. Dang it, I forget.
Supposed to get warmer.
It's supposed to be called climate change now, so that you can't make that joke.
Right. All right. So 603-283-6160. Coming up, we'll talk about anxiety surrounding climate change, because young people love their anxiety.
They really do
these days, and here's another excuse for it. More on the way here. You can take control and share your thoughts. 603-283-6160.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about the indoctrination that is going on at the earliest possible stage with very, very small children in a preschool being sung to with a just ridiculously horrible song about masks.
Most, children's songs are pretty simple and not supposed to be particularly good, but that one was especially bad.
Yeah. What was it? It was knocking off Farmer in the Dell, I think, is the original tune, and particularly bad as far as the content, telling kids, lying to them, saying that masks keep their friends safe, which there's not really any evidence that that's the case. I mean, we've seen.
Well, if you're sick and you have, an infectious disease, wearing a mask could, in theory, help keep your friends safe.
Right, because, those preschoolers are so good about not touching their face while wearing a mask and not touching other things after they touch their face. Right?
Also, a good point. Yeah. You'd have to wear the mask, correctly. And even then,
look, it's adults can't get it right.
Right. And even then, it would be very unclear how much it actually helps.
Every time I have to wear a mask, I'm constantly scratching my nose without thinking about it. So I'm touching the mask to scratch my nose.
Well, it's a piece of cloth over your face. It's uncomfortable.
It tickles your nose with the little fibers.
It's awful. So that was what we opened the show with, but then that kind of got us off into talking about kids today and all their mental problems, like anxiety. And when I was growing up, I never heard about this. In high school, no one ever told me, oh, I've got anxiety, I'm having an anxiety attack or whatever. And then in the last 15 years or so, it just all of a sudden, everybody in their, millennial and Generation Z generations, they all have anxiety, or at least seems like almost all of them do.
In the 80s and 90s and stuff, did people say oh, I'm having anxiety about this thing? Not, I have anxiety.
No, I don't ever remember people talking about that.
I'm anxious
not
about
saying
this
there
thing.
weren't people. Obviously, people can feel anxious about a thing, right?
That's what I never understood. Why do people say they have anxiety when they aren't? If you're anxious every second of the day, maybe you have anxiety. You know what I mean?
I don't think it necessarily has to be every second. I used to have anxiety issues. Shrooms turned out to, mitigate that almost entirely.
Ask, what happened?
Yeah, shrooms.
Okay.
Shrooms happened. But
that's it? You just took a dose of shrooms and then your anxiety went away? Or did you address some sort of internal
Definitely
problem?
The latter. Yeah,
okay.
Because to me, that's the whole point of the psychedelic is to reflect on the minotaurs within and go into the inner labyrinth and overcome them.
So you were able to find something inside of you that was incorrect or wrong, or you'd been harmed at some point, and you've been able to focus on that while on the shrooms. It's allowed you to do that and then eliminate the problem at its source.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But again, I grew up with some crap, and most of these people didn't. They just, having anxiety, PTSD, depression, bipolar disorder, it's just the flavor of the week.
It seems to be their identity.
Yeah, me and Ian, I was showing him this picture that my sister sent me of somebody's Facebook profile, and her bio, which is supposed to say things like, oh, I like, movies and walks on the beach, something about you, was, I have PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and anxiety, and also I had a stroke last year in 2019. It was just why is that your bio?
It's all over Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Just click on a random Twitter person's page, and it's just a laundry list of mental illnesses.
All their problems.
Almost none of them diagnosed by an actual medical health professional.
Mm-hmm.
They just probably read about it. Oh, God.
That's me.
I took an online quiz that said I had PTSD. It's absurd. But yes, you're right. That is their identity.
Right.
That's all they have going for them is mental illness.
Well, and you were recently at you visited some friends, some old friends down in San Antonio for one of their birthdays, and one of the things that a lot of the younger people have in common is their problems, right? And so, it used to be problems with people talk about their problems.
Sure.
Obviously, it's a way for them to connect and share relatable things. Now people relate to one another based on, you've got PTSD? I've got PTSD too. Wow, you know what? I had an anxiety attack earlier today. Let me tell you about it. And so that is a thing now for people. Instead of just talking around the water cooler or whatever about, the movies or sports teams or whatever, now it's mental problems.
Basically, what you're referencing is what I was getting at when I was saying, I wasn't saying you don't have a problem unless you're anxious at all times. I was saying, why do people call it something like that? Like, I wouldn't say I have fear just because I have fear at certain times in my life. You know what I mean?
That's just being a human.
Yeah, you have anxiety at times, you don't at other times. Why do people define their lives by it? It doesn't make sense. And it's just like, the more people think about it, the more they have it constantly.
The more they have it, yeah.
But what I was...
it's similar to depression, right? A lot of people are like, I'm so depressed today, but they're not. They're just sad about something that happened. An actual person who's depressed is just depressed with absolutely no cause beyond a chemical imbalance in the brain.
Well, that's what they say. But I'm skeptical of that, too.
I mean, but it's still within the brain, so it's still within control of your brain, and you could, in theory, fix that if you so chose.
That's the thing. A lot of the people who have it don't believe they can fix it. They believe that it's a permanent problem. Oh, I'm chemically imbalanced, therefore I got to get on this medication for the rest of my life that costs God knows how much.
All they have to make themselves feel special.
Yeah, and does who knows what to them. Being on that medication. I bring this up every time, but it's such an important story. I think one of the original 3 co-hosts, who has not been on the show for many years because he never moved. Actually, technically, he lives in New Hampshire, but I haven't ever seen him in 15 years. But his name was Mike, and he was on antidepressants, and he quit them. He quit taking antidepressants. And he just
Good for him.
Did it cold turkey. I don't know if that's the safest way to do it, but that's
from what I understand, it's not. But
that's what he did. And when he was on these antidepressants, they made him break out in acne, and they killed his sex drive.
They do that,
and it's like, those are 2 things that might cause someone to be somewhat depressed. You're covered in acne all over your back in his case and his face. And you also have no sex drive. So
and presumably he was in his 20s, right?
Nah, he was probably in his 30s at that point, maybe mid to late 30s. But yeah, it wasn't helping him in any way, shape, or form, and he felt a lot better, after he got off of that stuff. I just feel so bad for these people, especially given that there's actual studies that have shown that placebo can cure depression. So if placebo can cure depression, then that is an indicator that it is actually all in your head.
Yeah, change your mind, change your life.
Yeah, and you can do something about it.
I think it really
involve pills.
I think it really is child abuse to put kids on antidepressants because, first of all, you're literally hooked for life or you could, die. I know a girl who went on it at 10, and she's the biggest wreck in the world. She's not
Is
just
she still on it?
Oh, yeah, she would die if she went off. She's been on, she's always having to up her dose, always changing them and stuff like that.
Wow.
She went on at 10 because her parents believed a stupid doctor that said your daughter's depressed instead of just she's a brat. Maybe she was.
You guys suck as parents. That's the problem.
Do something differently. Oh, okay, we'll put her on antidepressants, and now she's 25 and literally just, a
mess.
Biggest mess I know.
Wow. There's so many of these stories.
Sounds like a parenting problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to tell, yours, you're welcome to join us here, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And I love your story, Ari, about, taking psychedelic mushrooms, which, of course, we've discussed a lot here on Free Talk Live, and addressing whatever those internal conflicts were that solved the anxiety issues.
It's better than taking pills.
Hell yeah. 603-283-6160. We got more coming up here on the way about education and so-called anxiety. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Several figures named in the so-called Pandora Papers are denying they've engaged in illicit financial activities. King Abdullah of Jordan's ownership of property overseas is neither unusual nor improper, according to the royal court in Amman. The Russian government is calling the leaked documents containing explosive allegations about President Putin unsubstantiated. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
The Pandora Papers include nearly 12 million confidential files that show how global leaders and billionaires have hidden their assets in tax havens, including the Cayman Islands, Dubai, Monaco, Panama and Switzerland. Among them are Jordan's King Abdullah II, who through companies registered as tax havens bought 14 homes in the UK and US. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected to clean up his country, is also named in the leak. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not, but numerous of his close associates, including a childhood friend known as the wallet for Putin's wealth, is named.
President Biden says he cannot guarantee the US won't default on its debt obligations later this month. He put the blame for the looming crisis firmly at the door of Republicans in Congress who oppose raising the country's debt ceiling.
Republicans just have to let us do our job. If you don't want to help save the country, get out of the way so you don't destroy it.
Tensions between British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak have been evident on the first day of the annual conference of Britain's governing Conservative Party. The Chancellor told party members gathered in Manchester that there could be further tax rises as Britain tries to revive its economy after the pandemic.
Anyone who tells you that you can borrow more today and tomorrow will simply sort itself out just doesn't care about the future. So yes, I want tax cuts, but in order to do that, our public finances must be put back on a sustainable footing.
The Prime Minister is known to be opposed to higher taxes and will speak to the conference on Wednesday. Two scientists who discovered how humans feel warmth have won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. American molecular biologists David Julius and Ardem Pataputian worked out how human skin converts physical sensations into electrical messages in the nervous system. Dr. Stephanie Koch, Senior Research Fellow at University College London, says the discovery is groundbreaking.
We can treat the skin as the first point of contact for separating out all these different sensations that we feel, which means that we can target it on its own without all the side effects that you're thinking of with opioids or with, addiction and sleepiness. We can target each of these different components within the skin and still be able to interact and have our normal living lives.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up what you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about the sort of wussification of humanity, basically. And some people had asked the question, I remember last year when this whole COVID crackdown was beginning, people were asking, well, why now? Why did they decide to do this now instead of like 2010 or 2015? Or, why this time? Why this particular thing, this disease? And I think a good answer to that is, like, it was time, as far as their whole plot of trying to dumb people down, as far as their plot of trying to make people into a bunch of pussies and, round off all the corners, make sure everybody wears their, you're going to go out, little Billy, make sure you put on your knee pads and your elbow pads and your helmet. And, there's just been this push towards constant obsession over safety. And, of course, a lot of that has led to constant quote-unquote anxiety and all these mental illnesses. It's just like this has been going on for enough decades to where they thought they could get away with it this time. And they did.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. So if you want to comment, you can join us here. Here's another related story from CBS Miami. A new study finds a growing number of young people are suffering from anxiety about climate change.
Why would they suffer anxiety about something over which they have absolutely no control?
Yeah.
Well, I know
that's the dumbest thing to be anxious about.
I know one reason. I remember this girl in high school saying this to me. She said that she is scared because she doesn't know if climate change is real or fake, but she's afraid to have kids because she's afraid, like, what if they just die in the sun exploding or whatever it is.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's real or fake. I mean, sure, the climate is changing because that's what climates do, but it doesn't really matter if it's anthropomorphic or whatever the term is, if man is causing it or if it's natural or whatever. We live in an ecosystem that has ways of dealing with that, and if humanity is ultimately making the ecosystem unbearable for humans, then humans won't be able to endure the ecosystem. They'll die out, trees will regrow, and the problem will fix itself.
Anthropogenic is the word you're looking for.
Thanks.
Anthropomorphic is furries, where they're into the animals that are made to look human or whatever.
But I mean, they're like, oh God, the Great Barrier Reef of Australia is dying. And I'm like, I really don't care because I know that, give it a few centuries and you'll have the Great Barrier Reef of the Gulf of Mexico or something. I mean, that's just the way living works.
Or as Bonnie pointed out, the sun's going to burn out someday or whatever, right? Like then everybody dies.
Yeah, in like 1 billion years. That's a stupid thing for a high schooler to be worrying about. I can't have kids because the sun might explode.
Well, I also remember a girl telling me that her mom was always scared as a kid because she grew up in a crazy Christian household. I mean, I had these thoughts too, and she was afraid, well, the end of the world is almost here anyway, so I might as well not have kids. And
but Christians have been saying that for almost 2,000 years.
Yeah.
The end of the world's right. Jesus is coming back tomorrow.
But that's what I grew up hearing all the time, and I believed it. I was like, this is the end times.
I mean, look, there are good reasons to not have kids. All three of us in this room don't have them, and
I just don't want them.
Yeah, we all have our own reasons. I don't want them. I think they're a burden. I have no interest in spending my time. I mean, I barely have enough time to, take care of myself and walk the dog or whatever, let alone take care of some child. But to use the excuse of, the earth is going to die, therefore you shouldn't have kids, that one doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think it's an excuse. I think they were just like, oh, I want to keep living my life, but it feels like, what's the point? Like, everything's bad's going to happen. I don't want to have kids. And then, the world explodes or whatever. It's just because they were indoctrinated with fear.
Sure. But if you believe the world is going to end at some point.
Well, there's some people that will be like, the world's going to end. I'm going to party and not care about anything. And there are some people that get anxious about it.
If I knew the end of the world was imminent, I would take the party approach.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Asteroid's going to hit the planet in 2 weeks. All right,
my job.
Yeah, I'm living it up for the next 2 weeks, man.
Right.
But something 1 billion years out or so esoteric that people have been expecting it for 2,000 years, like the return of Christ or whatever. It's like you can't live your life based around hypotheticals that are that unlikely.
But when I was a kid, it was always just like the people on the 700 Club or whatever were always saying, like, this is this sign, and this means this, and this means this, and that's why we're in the end of times. And I was just like, this is it for real this time. And I was just a kid, so it was really scary to me.
And the 700 Club is still on the air, by the way. We saw the news this week that Pat Robertson retired finally, and now his son will be taking over that show. So apparently it's not.
Did he expect to retire before Jesus came back?
Yeah, right.
He's like 92. I was always seeing that on the TV in my parents' and my grandparents' house and being like, how is this the same host?
Yeah, some of these same thing with the British Queen. How is she still alive?
I think
she's always looked old. My whole lifetime.
Well, she drinks the blood of infants or something. That's how she does it.
That's probably true. So the first quote,
I read that on a website somewhere, so it's for sure true.
And this goes right to what you were saying, Bonnie. You didn't read the story, did you? The first quote in this story from some student at Miami, presumably like Miami somewhere, quote, "It's quite worrying, and it makes me think about our future, and it's definitely not a place that I want my kids to live in."
But look around you, dude. Like, everything is pretty much fine.
Well, I mean, except for the government and the mask. You mean environmentally?
Environmentally, yes. I mean, sure, California's on fire, but that's
the government's problem.
And it's not a new thing.
No.
Actually, becoming a libertarian helped me feel a lot better about the future. Like, I used to always think everything around me is bad. Everything is getting worse. It's so bad. And then when I became a libertarian and I was reading a lot of FEE articles, they talk about...
Foundation for Economic Education.
Yes, they talk really often about how that seems to be a narrative that's pushed, but actually they have this and this and this to show that life is actually getting better for most people. I mean, this
That's
is
true.
pre-COVID.
People have
and it made me feel better.
People have been lifted out of poverty. I mean, around the world, more so in the last few decades than
I mean, you're considered
ever.
poor in the United States now if you don't have a 70-inch television.
And 3 phones or whatever,
AirPods.
right? Yeah.
Or the latest iPhone or whatever. Americans have no concept of what poverty even is anymore.
This is true. But even people who've actually been in poverty, a lot of them have been lifted out by the market.
Yes,
by what,
like China.
Correct. By what level of, again, there's no free market out there, but by what level of marketability and freedoms we have, it has been tremendous in just the last few decades alone. So, yeah, there's no doubt about it. The standard of living, the quality of life has certainly gone up over time. Unfortunately, technology has also gotten into the hands of the state, and they are using that to oppress people. So I think things, as far as the state goes, are going to get worse before they get better, but we should still continue to see developments happen even during that. 10,000 young adults from 10 countries were asked how they feel about climate change. Researcher Carolyn Hickman said children started telling us they were feeling betrayed and abandoned, and that they felt that governments were lying about the effectiveness of the action they were taking to address the climate emergency.
I like that they already don't trust the government, at least on this one particular issue.
Yeah, just the one issue.
Yeah, well, even Greta Thunberg was recently quoted saying blah, blah, blah in relation to politicians. Like, she's upset that politicians are BSing her and not doing the things that they promised that they're going to do.
Well, she just wants the government to have more control to do more things.
Well, I have news for them. Politicians are always going to lie to her about every issue 100% of the time.
I expect that, and I didn't listen to her whole speech or anything like that. I just heard an outtake from it. But I presume that what she wants is a different set of politicians, the trustworthy ones, to be elected. And so, she's, 20 or 19 or something like that. So she hasn't been around long enough to experience multiple sets of politicians lying to her. So she's going to have to go through that. But at least she's realizing that she's been lied to. I mean, what that will lead to for her, I don't know. She's certainly not a liberty-minded person. But that's what it takes to disillusion somebody. If that keeps happening enough, maybe they will become disillusioned with the system as the solution to their problem. That these politicians are somehow going to be her knight in shining armor to come save her precious environment. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's delusional to think that, you could have just an entire country ruled over by honest, trustworthy politicians. That the angels of men leading your country. It's totally unlikely.
Wait till you hear the numbers of young people, 16 to 25-year-olds, so Gen Z, who are afraid about the future, worried about climate change. Get your guesses ready on the percentages here, folks. We're going to continue in moments. The number 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about these young people and their anxiety, not just their general constant anxiety about their lives or whatever, but now it's what they're calling eco-anxiety, as in ecological anxiety, as in fear of what might happen to the environment in the future.
See, that's why I don't trust this poll. If you had asked these same 10,000 people, I think it was however many they asked, if what
in
are your
10 countries?
What are the 3 biggest causes of anxiety in your life? What are your greatest concerns?
The FBI.
Almost none of them would have said climate change. Maybe 10% of them.
Yeah, I wonder about that. Your point being,
I suspect most of them would have said, COVID-19 or something like that, or I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, or having to do homework for college or whatever.
Yeah.
They're probably not really spending that much time thinking about climate change until someone
put it in their head.
Yeah.
You may be right about that, and I did pull up the actual study here, so I'm hoping to find the questions that were asked, but according to, let's see, I looked up the woman's name who's the researcher involved in this. The University of Bath was behind the study. Carolyn Hickman is the woman, and she she's not coming at this from the perspective of like, haha, look at these, lame-o young people like we, like I might be. And
she's like, this is a serious problem.
Yeah. She's she wants this to be brought to the politicians. She wants to show how concerned people are about the environment.
About the thing they've been fear-mongering them about their entire lives.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So we can continue here with more on this study, because I haven't even told you the numbers of percentages of young people.
Again, I didn't get my guess ready either.
Ages 16 to 25. We'll go ahead and take a crack at it here in a moment. But first, Jesse is on the line in Virginia. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Jesse.
Hey, what's going on, Ian and Aria?
What's on your mind? Bonnie's here too. Go ahead.
Oh, what's up, Bonnie? Yeah, so I've just been calling in this past week, planning on visiting the New Hampshire area over the weekend, and planning on moving up there within the year.
Very cool.
You called, right? And you said that you were trying not to get too established in Virginia, right? And you said you're...
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you.
Cool.
But, yeah, so I got a fair bit of money. I got about $40,000. So I'm thinking about, spending a lot of that money before the dollar inflates rapidly over these next coming years. So I know you guys use cryptocurrency up there. That's something that interests me.
Well, I used to.
Not at the moment.
Yeah, I used to be an everyday cryptocurrency user. Unfortunately, due to ridiculous bail conditions, I am not allowed to. But Bonnie still does sometimes.
Yeah, I'm allowed to.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Bonnie. I know you guys live in the Keene area or somewhere around there, and that's like the most cryptocurrency use, like probably one of the biggest
Forbes
hubs
called it
for
the crypto mecca.
The crypto mecca, yeah, that's right. So what cryptocurrency do you guys use the most, and what are you able to buy up there with that type of cryptocurrency? Do you guys do grocery shopping, go to bars, and able to buy clothes and stuff with that type of cryptocurrency?
Grocery shopping? I don't really know if there's a grocery store around here that takes it. I know the Mighty Moose Mart takes it, and
there are 3 convenience stores that, as of the last count, that take it.
Our co-host Chris does his grocery shopping there, but I couldn't really live off of Twinkies and such. But lots of restaurants. You can get your teeth fixed, aka go to the dentist. You can get your eye doctor needs
There's an eye doctor
taken
now?
care of. I thought that the eye doctor in Keene took it.
I'm not aware of this.
Never mind.
I wasn't
Sorry.
aware of it.
But
you can get a general physician. You can get your car repaired.
Yeah.
There's an actual general practice doctor here. 2 of them. Well,
Yeah,
they're the
primary
same practice,
care.
but they're
Yeah.
a couple.
And
they're taking
that's
crypto.
really
They just
cool.
started doing that within the last 2 months.
And isn't there multiple car repair?
Only one that
Just
I'm aware
one?
of. Yeah.
As far as which currency, of course, I'm not using any of them these days, but Bitcoin Cash was certainly the most useful.
Yeah. When
I'd say that's number one.
When I spoke with AnyPay, which is the point of sale company that helps local business owners accept cryptocurrency, they had said as of some point last year, Bitcoin Cash was the number one. Looking at the statistics, Bitcoin Cash is the number one most used crypto in I think all of New Hampshire, and also Dash would be second place to Bitcoin Cash.
And I know that if I pay like a friend for like, hey, will you bring me that like the T-shirts you're making or something, and I'm just paying them like $10, and I'm like, can I pay you in crypto? They always ask for Bitcoin Cash.
I think a lot of people also like Monero. It's more difficult to accept Monero because there's, to my knowledge, not any payment platforms that have it integrated. So a business owner would have to want the Monero and have their own Monero wallet, and then know how to accept that directly. So you're not likely to be able to walk into a business and pay with a Monero. But person to person,
use that like online. Is that right? Monero online.
Some people use it online, but we're just talking about kind of like the real life business, people who want to buy things from one another. I know that there's like a market day sometimes here in various different parts of New Hampshire, and some people at those market days will certainly accept Monero for whether it be fresh meat from the farm or some sort of deliciously concocted food that's being sold there, or whatever it is that they've got for sale. There's a bunch of, individually, I think you'll find a high Monero acceptance amongst free-minded people up here because they appreciate the privacy aspect of it.
Also, goldbacks. There are a lot of places here that accept goldbacks and people who would take them from you for things.
Yeah, as for like clothing and groceries, your best bet is going to be to use a Bitcoin.com gift card for a grocery store or something like that, or Purse.io in order to buy clothing off of Amazon.
Purse.io, or actually SaveItPurse.com is a better way to get into that site. Then Free Talk Live gets a little piece of purchases. I
didn't know that was still active.
It should still be active. SaveItPurse.com, check that out. So yeah, that's a good way to order things online. And one of the things that I would try out if I hadn't been banned from using cryptocurrency would be the new Dash Direct. Which I think is really interesting that they've got an app. They teamed up with there's this app company called CrayPay that already existed for credit card and debit card payments. So I'm allowed to download that app, but I still haven't gone around to actually doing anything with it because I just don't care about debit cards and credit cards as much. Sure. But basically the model is they will sell you a gift card for I don't know how many dozens of different places. Some of them are physical businesses you can walk into. Others are online purchases. Except unlike a lot of these companies that'll sell you gift cards for crypto, you get a discount with Dash Direct. And each company offers a different discount. So some of them, it's not really worth talking about. Others, it's like 3, 4, 5, 6%.
Well, even a 1% discount is better. Than a 0% discount.
No doubt about it. But, if it's a small purchase, then is it worth your time to go through the extra steps you have to go through to pay with that? If it's at 3, 4, 5%, it might very well be, and a lot of them are. So, like everything from, AMC theaters to...
which might take crypto soon anyway.
They're going to they're looking at taking crypto natively, which is interesting.
Got to do something to stay alive.
Yeah.
And that will do it.
That will help them. It may be too little too late, but it's going to help, I think, a little bit. But Dash Direct is interesting because people need to have an incentive to use cryptocurrency. Like we had used it because, and those who still use it, they use it in this area because they're fans of it. They're fanatics. They're cryptocurrency fanatics.
We want to see it successful, and using it in the real world is how it becomes successful.
Right. So I was using...
That's going to be more important later on when the dollar starts to inflate, and that's really encouraging that you guys have community out there that's actively using it, not just focused on trading it for dollar amounts.
Yeah, and what I really loved was I sat with this doctor who accepts crypto. Now again, I didn't pay for this doctor with crypto. She takes cash as well, but she does take crypto, and I was asking her about it because I didn't know who she was. And I asked her, how'd you get into this? Because she said they just started. She said it was one of their friends or customers or something. She named the guy's name, and it didn't ring a bell with me, who brought it up to him and asked him about it. So it's like Keen it's got enough like crypto action to where it's starting to spread without our help, meaning that to my knowledge, wasn't like a free stater or something like that, unless there's somebody who's here who we don't know.
She told me about it too. I don't remember if she said his name or anything, but it was just like her friend. And I don't even think that he lived in Keene.
Oh, I thought that he did.
I think it was somebody, because they came here from Connecticut. I think it was somebody from like somewhere else that she lived.
But just, because there's enough crypto acceptance in this area, it's kind of like starting to take on a life of its own. And thank you, Jesse, for the call. We'll look forward to seeing you here. And I remember hearing other stories within the last few years about business owners kind of doing like business-to-business purchases where one of the business owners that is accepting crypto will take their crypto and go and spend it at one of the other business owners that accepts crypto, which is cool. That means they're not cashing it out. They're actually using it, which is neat. More coming up here. Hour 2's on the way. Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Several figures named in the so-called Pandora Papers are denying they've engaged in illicit financial activities. King Abdullah of Jordan's ownership of property overseas is neither unusual nor improper, according to the royal court in Amman. The Russian government is calling the leaked documents containing explosive allegations about President Putin unsubstantiated. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
The Pandora Papers include nearly 12 million confidential files that show how global leaders and billionaires have hidden their assets in tax havens, including the Cayman Islands, Dubai, Monaco, Panama and Switzerland. Among them are Jordan's King Abdullah II, who through companies registered as tax havens bought 14 homes in the UK and US. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected to clean up his country, is also named in the leak. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not, but numerous of his close associates, including a childhood friend known as the wallet for Putin's wealth, is named.
President Biden says he cannot guarantee the US won't default on its debt obligations later this month. He put the blame for the looming crisis firmly at the door of Republicans in Congress who oppose raising the country's debt ceiling.
Republicans just have to let us do our job. You don't want to help save the country? Get out of the way so you don't destroy it.
Tensions between British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak have been evident on the first day of the annual conference of Britain's governing Conservative Party. The Chancellor told party members gathered in Manchester that there could be further tax rises as Britain tries to revive its economy after the pandemic.
Anyone who tells you that you can borrow more today and tomorrow will simply sort itself out just doesn't care about the future. So yes, I want tax cuts, but in order to do that, our public finances must be put back on a sustainable footing.
The Prime Minister is known to be opposed to higher taxes and will speak to the conference on Wednesday. 2 scientists who discovered how humans feel warmth have won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. American molecular biologists David Julius and Ardem Pataputian worked out how human skin converts physical sensations into electrical messages in the nervous system. Dr. Stephanie Koch, Senior Research Fellow at University College London, says the discovery is groundbreaking.
We can treat the skin as the first point of contact for separating out all these different sensations that we feel, which means that we can target it on its own without all the side effects that you're thinking of with opioids or with, addiction and sleepiness. We can target each of these different components within the skin and still be able to interact and have our normal living lives.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more depth at problems in the international supply chain that are leading to shortages of goods in a wide variety of countries. In the US, it's become impossible to source timber for construction. In the UK, there have, of course, been petrol shortages over the last 2 weeks. In Germany, shortages of metal, plastic and paper products are denting economic growth. What is going on?
It's Economics 101. If you constrain supply, so because ports are congested, ports are closed for COVID reasons. We can't move our transport workers around, and you massively increase demand, which we've seen. You're going to get this real fractions of the supply chain going forward.
Guy Platten is the Secretary General of the International Chamber of Shipping.
Some ships are waiting weeks before they can go and discharge, and that has knock-on effects. So if you just look over the west coast of the United States, see the number of ships trying to get into the Los Angeles port, and it's just huge. And of course, there's loads of congestions within the port. That's the same in the UK as well, Felixstowe and other places as well. So you get in this knock-on delays, and each delay then means that the goods aren't in the shops when people need to have them.
He says in the UK, the situation is exacerbated by Brexit and unnecessary bureaucratic delays allowing truck drivers from Europe to reach Britain. But problems are being experienced worldwide, with one poll of German companies showing executives don't expect an easing of the crisis until next year. The main news again, several figures named in the so-called Pandora Papers are denying they've engaged in illicit financial activities. President Biden says he cannot guarantee the US won't default on its debt obligations later this month, putting the blame at the door of the Republican Party. And two American molecular biologists who discovered how human skin feels warmth have won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Following today's press conference in which NASA announced its continuing search for a planet capable of supporting NASA, researcher Dr. Kenneth Heiser sat down with Onion reporters to detail their ongoing mission to find a NASA habitable planet.
Our objective is to find a planet capable of nurturing not just life, but also a sustained interest in the exploration of the cosmos. Such a planet would need to have water and proximity to light and heat, but also life forms with even the vaguest understanding of the importance of astronomical exploration. Ultimately, this would need to be a planet with organisms that have a genuine interest in expanding the limits of their knowledge.
Heiser added that any planet capable of supporting NASA would need to be able to generate a steady stream of financing to meet the agency's $18 billion annual budget.
The important thing is we just need to be patient. There's a limitless number of planets in the universe, and eventually we'll find one with the resources to support our work. We just have to, right?
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Kicking off the second hour of the program. We're talking about this wussification of America and maybe the rest of the world. I don't know how bad it is over there. Everywhere else, but it's been pretty bad here, especially school children. We started out with another disturbing video from some daycare / preschool with kids in a bunch of masks being sung to some sort of terrible mass propaganda song about how it's all about keeping kids safe and all that.
And I realize it's weird to hear this coming from me, what a lot of people would describe as the dude who wears girls' clothes and makeup, but yeah, people are being wussified, and I don't know what to do about it.
Well, you're no wuss. I mean,
no.
You're pretty badass, in my opinion.
Well, thanks. But not to those people. They're like, oh, you're the prime example of everything that's going wrong with these people, right?
No. These are people who are just sick in a lot of ways. By the way, it's Ian, Bonnie, and Aria in the studio here tonight. They're sick because they're constantly being beaten over the head from young ages. Probably they're starting this is probably in preschool. Probably one of the other things these kids that are being masked and sung to are being told that the environment's being destroyed or whatever at age 3. And then, of course, it continues into government school after that through college. I mean, it just never lets up on these kids. And Bonnie, you went through it more recently than Aria and I did. There really wasn't the crazy environmental stuff when I was in school in the 80s and 90s, but it took off in the aughts and in this last decade for sure.
I mean, mine was mostly shaped by 9/11.
Yeah, I was already out of school by that time, but we've got a study here because we were talking also about young people that claim to have anxiety, and it seems like it's their identity for themselves. It gives them something to talk about. That they think other people will find interesting because they also claim to have the same problems. Well, guess what? All these kids with so-called anxiety, turns out that...
Hold on, I have a guess. 63%.
Of the students, there was a 10,000 young adults aged 16 to 25
80%
were studied and asked how they feel about climate change. The study was done by the University of Bath, and in a very short piece at CBS Local, they only highlight a couple of the statistics. 84% of 16 to 25-year-olds surveyed are at least somewhat worried about climate change, and nearly 60% say they are very or extremely worried.
Well, you were both right.
Yeah. About the climate crisis. 75% of them say the future is frightening. One concern.
There is absolutely nothing in the future that I find frightening. Whatever happens, it's going to be fun.
It'll be interesting.
Yes.
That's for sure.
That's a better word than fun, because it's not always fun. It is often fun.
Yeah, sometimes there's, terrible things that occur in people's lives. There's a bit of an up and down that tends to happen in life. And you know what? You're either able to roll with the punches, or you're this blubbering mess over, standing in the corner cowering because you're so anxious.
More than roll with the punches, you can turn anything negative into a positive in your life.
Yeah, it really is all about your mindset and how you look at things. And in fact, some people would say that even things that are happening to you that appear to be negative, in the long run, you'll be able to look back. I mean, if you can see it as positive while it's happening, that's the ideal. That's sort of like, what the master would do. But later on, you could look back. You should be able to look back and see, oh, well, because of this thing, like, oh, you got fired? Well, looks like you got a better job as a result of that, or that job sucked. Now you've got better people that you work with. There's just all kinds of things that turn out better in the long run, and it starts with something bad happening.
And I mean, we also create our own experiences sort of subconsciously.
Totally.
Like if you wake up expecting to have a bad day, you're almost certainly going to have a bad day.
Yep.
But if you wake up and expect to have a bad day and you convince yourself, no, I'm going to have a good day, you're going to end up having a good day.
Yeah, like
Totally
my sister always says and really believes that the world is hell, and because of that, her life is just like crappy.
It's awful.
And it's just like, I always tell her, life's what you make it. So I was laughing because that's Hannah Montana lyrics.
I mean, that's a fair point, though, because the only ubiquity throughout the entire universe and all living things is that they will suffer at some point throughout their entire life. So there's a decent argument that this is, in fact, the afterlife that is supposed to be punishment.
But it's just like me and Ian's life when we were with Coconut. That's not hell.
Well, but the Buddhists, of course, would agree with you that there is suffering, but then acceptance of that, allows
it frees
to not,
you from it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So 60%, nearly 60% say they're very or extremely worried. A concerned student said, quote, "That's the most scary bit, really. What's going to happen in future generations down the line?"
What do you care? That's the future's problem. I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but it's also true. And don't they believe that the world is going to end by like 2025 or whatever? When
they always have to readjust the goalposts on that, though, because it used to be that there was going to be like an ice age. They were saying that in the 70s that was going to happen, within a few decades or whatever. So
I know, but why is this kid even talking about future generations when the current prediction certainly is that it's irreversible in 2050 or whatever? Within this kid's lifetime, it's going to be unmanageable.
Well, but if the government just taxes people enough, they'll be able to reverse it. Right?
I don't personally think that's going to work, but I could see why.
What do they think the government's going to do? Exactly.
Carbon taxes.
That's what I'm saying. That's all they have.
Yeah, and I don't know.
What's that going to do?
Presumably encourage people to use things that produce less carbon. But I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like it's going to help, but...
People like to act like that the governments can make big corporations stop causing pollution and stuff like that, because it's true. Big corporations like pollute water and the airways and stuff like that.
Not as much as the government pollutes.
Well, the thing about it is, the thing that could actually have big corporations not have an incentive not to do that is the free market, not government coercion.
Yeah, take your business elsewhere.
Exactly.
The thing is, I go, that won't be effective. I need the government to force everyone to do it, instead of just not using Amazon or whatever company they are boycotting at the moment.
So another young person said, "You don't want them to be left in a world where there's no animals that they can look at, or there's no beautiful things in the world that they can see."
Science has failed that generation so badly. How is there going to become a point where there's no animals to look at, dude? That is certifiably insane.
If there were no animals, we'd be dead.
There would just be more lizards and stuff, more salamanders, more reptiles. It will be fine. Even if the entire planet is desertified, there are literally animals in the desert surviving 130-degree temperatures.
I want to get into the actual study here. So, that was just a brief overview with CBS News, but I did pull up the study from the University of Bath, and I'm just going to look at the abstract of it here because that's, the kind of the summary. Background. Climate change has significant implications for the health and futures of children and young people, yet they have little power to limit its harm, making them vulnerable to increased climate anxiety.
See, she's already incorrect. Fear-mongering about climate change is causing them irreparable mental harm. Climate change itself doesn't appear to be causing them any harm. Right. It's the fear-mongering.
Yeah, climate change seems to be a good thing if it makes things warmer because, I'd rather things be warmer than cold, personally.
Not if you live somewhere where it's hot. Do you want to live where it's 90 degrees like right now and just hope that it's hotter?
I did live where it was 90 degrees.
Would you want to live in Sarasota and hope that it gets hotter?
I don't think it would matter that much.
If it got hotter, I would move to somewhere like New Hampshire where, getting getting hotter from 30 degrees instead of getting hotter from 80 degrees.
Qualitative studies show climate anxiety is associated with perceptions of inadequate action by adults and governments, feelings of betrayal, abandonment, and moral injury. This study offers the first large-scale investigation of climate anxiety in children and young people globally and its relationship to government response. So they surveyed 10,000 young people in ages 16 to 25 in 10 countries. Data was collected on their thoughts and feelings about climate change and government response. Findings? Respondents were worried about climate change. 59% very or extremely, and 84% at least moderately worried. Over 50% felt sad, anxious, angry, powerless, helpless, and guilty.
So it didn't actually ask anything about their thoughts on climate change. It just asked about their feelings on climate change.
Well, there is a difference there, isn't there?
There is.
We'll continue. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. More from the study itself, which, as you can tell, is definitely written by somebody with an agenda. This isn't just some sort of scientist that just wanted to find out a thing. They have something they want to accomplish with this data. There's more coming up here, and you can join us. 603-283-6160. Are you scared?
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you a sneezer? If you're not,
can you get close to one? I don't literally mean someone sneezing. Sneezer, as defined by marketing guru Seth Godin, is an opinion leader. When a sneezer mentions something, other people catch what Godin calls the idea virus. Seth Godin says some people are more likely to tell their friends about a great new idea. So identifying and courting sneezers is a key success factor for idea merchants. His book, Unleashing the Idea Virus, is the most downloaded ebook in history, and you can download the whole book free. That's how he's making his idea contagious. Click tips, tricks, and other stuff to help you cut through the clutter at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Bring up whatever is on your mind in the studio tonight. It's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Arya.
Oh, and by the way, Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. Great place to go to learn about cryptocurrency. If you're interested in learning about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, those are two of the biggies out there, then Bitcoin.com will explain all that to you. Just hit Get Started at the top of the page over at Bitcoin.com, and you will learn the basics about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Great place to learn those things, because you know what? These things are likely not going away. Whether Bitcoin is always on top of the heap of cryptocurrencies, well, I suspect at some point something's going to replace it. But regardless of what is on top, it does behoove you to learn the basics. And the folks over at Bitcoin.com can help you with that. Their introductory video is all of, I think, around 3 minutes long. They do have other videos you can watch if you got the interest and the time. But at the very least, you should get down some of the basic concepts behind cryptocurrency over at Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started. Also, you can go to their news site over at news.bitcoin.com. We go to your phone calls and thoughts, though, and then we'll talk more about this study of 10,000 young people in 10 countries about their feelings around climate change. And turns out a tremendous number of them are very, very worried and so-called anxious about it. We'll continue with that. But first, Travis is on the line in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Travis.
Hi. Yeah, it's surprising how much the digital currency is going up, but I guess I can't say that it isn't, because I mean, cryptocurrency, at least Bitcoin, I wrote a book on it, and it's a better currency in many ways, in that you can transfer Bitcoin from the United States to anywhere in the world with it, and then to confirm the block and the blockchain, it takes about 10 minutes. So, if you want to do that with other currency, you have to go through an intermediary, like financial institution or something like that.
If they let you. I mean, the intermediary financial institutions are basically locking me out at this point. I have no more domestic bank accounts left. I've been waiting weeks now for the final bank that in the U.S. that closed my account to send me the closure check, and it's literally been more than 2 months now since that has happened. The merchant account that was doing the amps here on Free Talk Live has refused to accept Bonnie as a co-signer on the account, so we're no longer able to run credit card and debit card charges on the AMP site. And I could keep jumping. It's literally been 2 months since I've been dealing with the merchant account people to try to change over. First, I tried to change over one bank account to another bank account, and it was trying to use Bonnie's bank account, but they said, "Oh, we can't do that. You have to have her as a co-signer." So, all right, well, give us the co-signer form. We'll fill that out. And this is, weeks and weeks and weeks to go through all this. So it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I could ask Aria, or I could ask somebody else, and keep trying to jump through hoops. It's just like, you know what? I'm gonna blow it up and do something different. So, screw these people.
Just become trans, Ian. Just be trans.
How would that solve the banking problems?
Have a new name, is that what you're saying?
Didn't help me very much.
Yeah, Aria's trans, and she's also been blown out of banks. So how is that going to help?
I don't know. Maybe I like myself in shoes.
Well, congratulations, man. Thanks for the call tonight. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Maybe
there.
I like myself in shoes.
That's what I thought he said.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, but that doesn't mean I understand what that
means.
I don't understand it either.
I heard the words. They didn't make any sense.
I heard the words, but wasn't sure that I heard a human being speak those words. So I'm glad the two of you verified that.
Yeah, banking.
I also like myself in shoes. Not really. I prefer flip-flops, but it's actually gotten cold here in New Hampshire, and flip-flops are kind of off the table at this time.
Yeah, we're pretty much off that one. So, we could go off on the banking system here on Free Talk Live, and we have definitely done so in the past. And I wish the DeFi people good luck. I hope that they're able to innovate their way into killing all the old models of the banking industry. Unfortunately, they're not going away anytime soon, it seems like, although the U.S. government is looking at creating a central bank digital currency, and the bankers don't like that. So they're actually arguing against the so-called CBDC.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
It's good that they're arguing against it?
Yes.
Meaning that...
I don't want the U.S. government to create a digital currency.
Okay.
Who's arguing against it?
The central banks. Well, not central banks. The big banks.
So anyone who is against it, at least for the moment, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Okay. So you support the big banks on their opposition to the CBDC.
Yes.
Okay.
I still hate them. And I will argue with them later, but sure, let's stand together at this time to keep the U.S. government from doing that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that the CBDC will be a very, very bad thing, for sure. And there's a lot of reasons why that would be the case. It gives the government even more control over the issuing of money. It gives them more control over how people spend and receive money, and that's not good. More centralization, more control, more tracking, more awareness of what you're doing with money, more being able to actually just tie welfare payments directly to the CBDC to ensure that people get the government wallet.
And being able to just freeze it, which they can't do with like Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin is public. So you could argue some of those things. Oh, they can see what you're doing. Well, they can't just stop you from doing it.
And
they can't even do that with cash.
They can't freeze cash either, right? And then CBDC would be to get rid of cash in the long run. That would be their goal.
Somebody on Instagram was like starting a fight with me when I said just a positive, nice comment about Bitcoin on a conspiracy page. And he was just like, yeah, it's just so they can have your money in a place where they can wipe it all to zero. And I was just like, that's literally not how it works.
Nope,
Go educate yourself.
Where are the Christians at, though? Just like we talked about, all of this where the government can just completely turn off your ability to use money, whether you denied entry into places if you don't have this vaccine passport. Where the hell are the Christians?
I know the answer.
Because this is all straight mark of the beast revelations.
Some of them are out there. I mean, they were at, I would say there was a significant Christian contingent that was at the Freedom Rally I attended this weekend.
I don't even think that they think the vaccine is the mark. Like the woman who came up talking to me that was Christian, she's on the same page as my parents. This is to get us ready for the mark, and the mark is coming next. Doesn't make any sense because the vaccine completely, as you're saying, covers all the bases of what the mark would be. You can't spend money without it, all the stuff. You need this and this to do it, whatever. It's literally marks you. But the Christians are being told by their overlords, 700 Club, that the mark is coming next. And this vaccine thing, even though like it is kind of not to be trusted, it's not the mark yet. And
but
I don't know why
being told
my
to
parents
take
believe
it.
that.
A lot of the Christians are being told to take it because the public media presentation of this is, oh, well, the Pope's on board and Muslims are on board and the Christians are on board because the leaders, quote unquote, of all these big churches are bought and sold. And so they're all on board.
And I think that's why the fundamentalist American, usually Christian leaders on TV are pushing this, oh, the mark is coming next. It's because they don't want to overtly tell you not to take the vaccine.
Well, I mean, they're already wrong. It's like Conan said last Tuesday. Whether or not this is the mark of the beast is irrelevant. It is, by definition, a mark of the beast, as described in the book of Revelation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
and it's bad.
They're arguing that it's not coming, that the mark is next because, they've been hoodwinked just like the Bible said that they would be.
Yep.
The government's the beast, and they bought off all the big religious leaders as well.
And now it's their God.
603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're going to continue here, and we got more on these poor, sad, scared little young people about the environment.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Several figures named in the so-called Pandora Papers are denying they've engaged in illicit financial activities. King Abdullah of Jordan's ownership of property overseas is neither unusual nor improper, according to the royal court in Amman. The Russian government is calling the leaked documents containing explosive allegations about President Putin unsubstantiated. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
The Pandora Papers include nearly 12 million confidential files that show how global leaders and billionaires have hidden their assets in tax havens, including the Cayman Islands, Dubai, Monaco, Panama and Switzerland. Among them are Jordan's King Abdullah II, who through companies registered as tax havens bought 14 homes in the UK and US. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected to clean up his country, is also named in the leak. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not, but numerous of his close associates, including a childhood friend known as the wallet for Putin's wealth, is named.
President Biden says he cannot guarantee the US won't default on its debt obligations later this month. He put the blame for the looming crisis firmly at the door of Republicans in Congress who oppose raising the country's debt ceiling.
Republicans just have to let us do our job. If you don't want to help save the country, get out of the way so you don't destroy it.
Tensions between British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak have been evident on the first day of the annual conference of Britain's governing Conservative Party. The Chancellor told party members gathered in Manchester that there could be further tax rises as Britain tries to revive its economy after the pandemic.
Anyone who tells you that you can borrow more today and tomorrow will simply sort itself out just doesn't care about the future. So yes, I want tax cuts, but in order to do that, our public finances must be put back on a sustainable footing.
The Prime Minister is known to be opposed to higher taxes and will speak to the conference on Wednesday. Two scientists who discovered how humans feel warmth have won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. American molecular biologists David Julius and Ardem Pataputian worked out how human skin converts physical sensations into electrical messages in the nervous system. Dr. Stephanie Koch, Senior Research Fellow at University College London, says the discovery is groundbreaking.
We can treat the skin as the first point of contact for separating out all these different sensations that we feel, which means that we can target it on its own without all the side effects that you're thinking of with opioids or with, addiction and sleepiness. We can target each of these different components within the skin and still be able to interact and have our normal living lives.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up what you want. All you got to do, dial in 603-283-6160. If you're wasted, we'll still take the call.
Absolutely. Just keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly. 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
By the way, I want to say thank you to Free Talk Live amplifier, named, not the real name, I suspect, Jenna Talia.
See, that one got me when I did it.
It's a good one. Thank you, Jenna, for supporting the show over at amp.freetalklive.com. And as we were just mentioning, unfortunately, a lot of amplifiers are going to get cancellation notices. They're automated. We don't have any control over it because, when you have one of these payment systems, if the payment on a credit card fails once, it usually tries like 2 more times over a period of the next couple weeks. And if it fails both of those more, attempts, then it will automatically cancel those accounts. And, well, our credit card processing hasn't been working for about 2 weeks. So people are starting to receive automated cancellation notices. Your credit card...
We are working on something new, though.
Yeah, we are. Your credit card and debit cards are fine, likely. This is not your fault. It's not, something with your credit card your credit card company or anything. It's us. We just, our merchant is merchant services or whatever the hell they're called, because there's like the gateway and then there's the merchant provider. You don't just sign up in the banking world. You don't just sign up for one company. You sign up for the one company and then you have to sign up for another company that they tell you to sign up for. And then if both companies agree, you can process credit card transactions. So one company's fine with us. The other company has shut us off. And that's the way it is. So anyway, if you're on PayPal, that's still working. But as far as like changing things or going on to amp.freetalklive.com and like re-signing up, just don't do anything for the moment. We'll announce when there's something new, and hopefully that'll be within the next couple of weeks. There's a lot to take care of. Let me just say that.
There's a lot brewing as well. I think people are going to like it.
There is. I hope so. amp.freetalklive.com. You can go there and learn more about the program. So we were talking about this study of... It's a large study, 10,000 young people aged 16 to 25. It, of course, was conducted by somebody who's got an agenda, somebody who is...
And we've already seen at least 2 different ways that she's made it clear she has an agenda. First of all, she's asking these kids specifically about their concerns regarding climate change instead of just asking them about their concerns in general.
Correct.
And second, she describes this as asking their thoughts and feelings when she's not asking them their thoughts. She's just asking them how they feel.
So they found that a significant number of these young people, 84% of them, are at least moderately worried, with nearly 60% describing themselves as very or extremely worried. A bunch of them felt sad, over 50%, sad, anxious, angry, powerless, helpless, and guilty. Over 45% said their feelings about climate change negatively affect their daily life and functioning. And many reported a high number of negative thoughts about climate change.
How many said daily? Sorry.
Over 45% said it affects their fears or their feelings about it, affects their daily life and functioning.
See, I hear that, but then I immediately think about all of the people on Twitter and Facebook who are putting their their undiagnosed mental illnesses on in display. Their bio. Yeah. And I tend to think that's the same thing here. They're like, oh, yes, this absolutely affects my daily life, but it probably actually doesn't.
I can't leave my house. I'm afraid I'm going to have acid rain raining. What?
Yeah.
Respondents rated the governmental response to climate change negatively and reported greater feelings of betrayal rather than of reassurance. The correlations indicate, so that's a little bit of a good thing. Like, hey, the governments are disappointing them too. Surprise.
I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's always been the narrative since I was a kid. the government needs to do more about this.
Yeah,
and that's never
true.
a good thing.
They don't believe that the government will always fail them. They believe they can elect more.
Just usually fail them.
They believe they can elect more AOCs, right? Angelina Ocasio-Cortez or whatever her name. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. People like her. See, she's young. She'll get it right.
What has she done?
She wore a dress.
Oh, she did. She did wear a dress.
Yeah.
Yes.
She voted for things.
She got behind the so-called Green New Deal, right?
That went nowhere?
I mean, I
Is
think
it over yet?
No, I don't think it's over yet. I think they're trying to work it into other
Weren't they
legislation.
obsessed with cow flatulence or something during that?
I don't know. I know that part of it was they wanted people to stop flying on airlines, which now is actually kind of happening. Correlations indicate that climate anxiety and distress were significantly related to perceived inadequate government response and associated feelings of betrayal.
It's just like in all of the true crime YouTube videos and things like that about true crime, they're always saying the police knew this and they didn't do anything. The police need to be able to, we need to make it to where our police do something once we're at this stage, not where someone's dead. It's always don't you guys see that it doesn't make sense to want the cops to have more control to stop serial
I'm interpreting
killers?
this differently. It said that people are more anxious when they feel like their government hasn't done enough or something. Can you repeat that last line one more time?
Yeah, I mean, they are upset here. Let's see. Respondents rated the governmental response to climate change negatively and reported greater feelings of betrayal than of reassurance. So regarding how the government has handled their concerns, they feel more betrayed than reassured.
Well, obviously, because they're more afraid because they're constantly being peddled fear, so the government can never do anything to make that fear go away.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to feel like the government betrayed them more, the more afraid they are.
So I'm looking here at a chart that they have in the actual study. So what I was reading from before was the abstract and the percentages of people. So they break down the countries that they did here: Australia, Brazil, France, Finland, India, Nigeria, Philippines, Portugal, UK, USA. And then they have sort of different statements. So presumably they were given these statements and asked whether or not they somewhat agree or, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
People have failed to care for the planet. Future is frightening. Humanity is doomed. Less opportunity than parents. Most value will be destroyed. Family security will be threatened. Hesitant to have children.
Wow.
And so then the percentage of the whole sample and that I guess presumably agreed with that statement. 83% say people have failed to care for the planet. 75% future is frightening. 56% say humanity is doomed. 55% say less opportunity than their parents. 55% most value will be destroyed. 52% say family security will be threatened. And 39% hesitant to have children globally.
Well, I understand their hesitancy to have children, at least. It's not much fun from what I gather from people with children. However, the rest of it is nonsense. I don't believe that value is going to be destroyed or whatever it was they said. And I don't see any reason. If they believe that humanity is doomed, then what's the point of trying to save humanity? They're clearly not worth surviving. I mean, if humanity is doomed, then they failed the evolutionary test that would mark them worthy as continuing to survive.
And
so
it's
just
over.
Let it happen. Let the dolphins take over and become the next life form that, is intelligent or whatever it's going to be.
They also asked about the government and government response, and I'll break down the percentages here. All countries, again, 65% say the government is failing young people. 64% say the government's lying about the impact of actions taken. 60% say they're dismissing people's distress / future generations. 36% say they are acting in line with climate science. 33% think the government is protecting them, the planet, and future generations. 31% say the government can be trusted. So that's a good result.
How many?
31%.
Okay. So 69% to some degree don't trust the government.
Correct. 31% say they're doing enough to avoid catastrophe, and 30% say the government are taking concerns seriously enough.
How many said the government's doing enough to thwart catastrophe?
31% in all countries, but if you break it down by different, like the individual countries, only 24% in the U.S.
Nice.
Say that.
They're not doing enough.
Yeah,
we need to do more.
Well, yeah, and so you're right about this, Bonnie. Like, these people have not given up on the idea of government.
Like, honestly, to me, I don't think that the 33% saying that they trust the government is really a good thing, because they're being presented with the issue of climate change, and then that's what their brain is on. If it's like, do you trust the government to give you a vaccine? They'd be like, yes.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right about that. More coming up here at 603-283-6160, which has always amazed me about this whole vaccine thing. People know that the government lies, but yet they think they're telling the truth on this one. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live
is everything that you've spoken of about the government tonight has been in a negative connotation.
What is there to like about the federal government?
Tell me what's great about the United States federal government.
Protection. They protect us.
They've got a military that's 9 times the next closest military. That's not protection. I'm forced to pay for it.
The terrorists will tell you the reason why they're engaging in terrorist activities, if they are inside the United States, is because of what the U.S. government's military is doing. They're putting us in greater danger through their actions, sir.
When is the last time that you've watched someone else stab someone blatantly or blown themselves up?
That has nothing to do with the federal government.
An armed populace is what keeps a particular area safe, not soldiers.
Yeah, right.
Soldiers are all over the place in Venezuela.
Yeah. Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. Best thing you can do is get your kids out of these government schools because the indoctrination is heavy and it starts as young as they can possibly get to them. As we've been discussing here tonight, they're starting in preschool and daycare with pro-mask propaganda, probably environmental fear-mongering, and as a result, young people 16 to 25 are afraid to death about what is going to happen to the environment. Even though, as you pointed out, Arya, everything seems to be fine. There's all these people worried about, oh my God, the temperature's rising. Okay.
I haven't experienced that. I haven't noticed it.
The temperature goes up and down over periods of, thousands and thousands of years on the Earth, whether or not humans are around. Change happens. And the idea that, that these little ants, people, can have some sort of significant effect, I just don't, I don't sign on with that.
I used to think about that. I used to have the same position, at least, until I, learned about the early prehistoric periods of Earth where, the entire atmosphere, well, not the entire atmosphere, but it was very heavily carbon,
based?
I don't know what word I'm looking for.
Okay,
heavy,
dense, yeah.
But this new form of life emerged called cyanobacteria that basically it became modern-day plants. It consumed the carbon dioxide and it produced oxygen as a result. And because of that, animal life was able to develop. So this little bacteria was able to change the atmosphere of the Earth enough for other organisms to, come into existence. So humans definitely could, but whether we could do it on purpose and then and do it in such a short a period of time, because this whole carbon industrialization thing has only been 150 years. Cyanobacteria took tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And whether or not we could then become aware of that and consciously try to undo it, all of that certainly seems unlikely.
Yeah, and also I'm not concerned either because, plants convert carbon, as you pointed out, to oxygen. So,
studies also show that trees are growing faster because of the abundance of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, presumably.
What's wrong with that?
And they're becoming more efficient at converting carbon dioxide into oxygen. So
what's wrong with that?
It's nature fixing the problem, as far as I can tell.
Oh, and the whole idea that you're going to run out of water. Hello, it changes forms.
It does.
You don't run out of water. You can drink as much of it as you want. Now, it may be overconsumed in an area like California where it's mismanaged by a central authority known as the government, but that has more to do with, central control and mismanagement, bureaucracy.
And human
really
overpopulation in general.
Yeah.
I mean, some areas of the Earth just can't support populations that large. If you took a city the size of San Francisco and just dropped in the middle of the Sahara, they wouldn't survive.
Except they do. It's called Las Vegas.
There's a river right there. It's not just
Vegas?
Yeah, there's the Hoover Dam is
you
right around there.
They get most of their water from, I think, artesian wells, though.
What is that?
I don't recall now. I looked into it when I was there, but that was years ago.
But the point being, it literally was a desert, and they built one of the most successful, popular cities on the planet in the middle of nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a tribute to human ingenuity and, engineering and the will to create. And, of course, if people actually had those freedoms to actually just go to a place that has nothing and create a thing, like Hong Kong's another good example. Hong Kong is a rock. That thing has no natural abundance whatsoever. There's no, thing that, it's not sheep, it's not trees, there's nothing that Hong Kong has except for the relative freedom to create a business and to do a thing there. That's what made Hong Kong, as great as it once was until the Chinese sadly took it back over in the late 1990s. It's
finished that takeover recently.
Yeah, and it's long been the freest place for business on the planet. And that's without any real natural resources of which to speak. So,
well, the natural resource was freedom.
Correct. Yep.
And it worked.
And people brought in, whatever they needed.
Imagine freedom in a place like California.
Well, let's talk a little bit about freedom, Bonnie, because we've been focusing on education here tonight. You've had a story in your show prep for quite a while now that you've been wanting to share with us about what it will be like, what it could be like, in the absence of coercion in education. Because right now, if you've got kids and you're in the United States political jurisdiction, if you don't send them to the government school, or in most places provide evidence that you're appropriately homeschooling or sending them to some government-approved private school, then they will put you in a jail cell because there is absolute coercion behind the government school system.
Yes, this story from the Foundation for Economic Education called Compulsory Schooling Laws, What If We Didn't Have Them? Explains 5 big things that would happen if we didn't have them.
I can predict one of them. An incredible expansion of choice. There would be so many different educational options in the absence of the government one-size-fits-all systems. It would be amazing.
That would be so fun for kids.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly agree. It's useful for the average human being to know how to read, write, do arithmetic, and have some basic level of understanding of science and things like that. But the vast majority of what we learned in school has never served any purpose for me whatsoever.
Yeah, when's the last time you wrote a book report?
Never.
When's the last time?
Never outside of school.
You did algebra?
Not recently.
No.
And if I do it, it's because of something that, I'm bored and I just want to do it. It's not something that's actually necessary to my life. I'm just I'm curious about this.
When's the last time you wrote a paper with proper citations?
Never, but I understand why some people would be able to would need to do that.
Yeah.
But myself, never.
Yeah, I don't remember how you do it. I'd have to look it up if I wanted to do it.
Well, and they changed the way you're supposed to do it so often.
Yeah.
MLA is the one that they made us do
MLA, yeah, I remember.
High school, and it was annoying. Anyways, this article says, we should always be leery of laws passed for our own good, as if the state knows better. The history of compulsory schooling statutes is rife with paternalism triggered by anti-immigrant sentiments in the mid-19th century and fueled by a desire to shape people into a standard mold. History books detailing the Common School movement and the push for universal compulsory schooling perpetuate the myths that Americans were illiterate prior to mass schooling and that there were limited education options available and that mandating school attendance under a legal threat of force was the surest way toward equality.
I don't know if I ever really believed that most Americans were illiterate prior to the public school system. I've never given it much thought, but literacy has always been pretty common in the West as I understand it.
I always kind of wonder, whenever there's any time period that they're talking about everybody was illiterate, I always wonder how did everybody become literate? So maybe I thought it was schools, but I don't think I thought that hard about it.
How did they become literate?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, prior, as I understand it, I have not done significant research on this, but I remember, I think it was John Taylor Gatto talked about the history of education in the U.S. And prior to the government mandated schools coming about, I think it was in the late 1800s when that started happening. They were religious schools. There were schools that were run by the Catholic Church, for instance.
Yeah, Thomas Paine was notoriously a commoner, and he wrote Common Sense, so he was certainly literate. Mm-hmm. And Common Sense was distributed as a pamphlet and was extremely successful.
Yeah.
So you got to presume most people were able to read it as well.
Well, here's the thing, and it's just like with the unschooling methods, which I'm a fan of from what I've heard about it.
That's like deprogramming them?
Unschooling is just where you let the kid decide.
Okay.
You basically say, hey, do what you want, learn what you want. We're here as a resource if you want to ask us questions or whatever.
So is YouTube.
Yeah, or whatever. The internet is a huge resource now, obviously. But, we'll help you if you want help, but we being parents. But go to it, kid.
Or they take them to outside and let them explore, and they are learning without realizing they're learning type of thing.
I mean, again, whatever the kid wants to do. If they want to go outside and explore, if they want to go read a book, or if they want to, learn math, they will. And there's a desire, this sort of natural thing that's innate within humans that the government, of course, beats out of us by putting us in these school indoctrination camps, which makes learning less fun and less interesting and more rote and more boring.
That thing would be curiosity.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And oh, hey, what are you doing? What is that, Mom? Oh, this is a book. Well, what do you do with that? All the questions that parents get, eventually they're going to want to read the book. They're going to, want to join the ranks of people who can read, people who can do these things, do math. You want to make money in life? You want to, have a nice life? Well, you have to be able to speak to people. You have to be able to read these things. You have to be able to do these basic things. So, life has the motivating factors to drive people to these things, just naturally. We don't need to be told by some central authority what we have to know.
And you're absolutely right. The compulsory schooling system breeds the love of learning out of kids.
That does.
When I was a
whips
kid,
it out of them.
I was homeschooled until 3rd grade, and when I got to school, I was like, oh yeah, I'm so ready. I just want to learn every day, and like nobody else did. And like I would start to feel like I was lame and stuff about that because I was just always the smartest kid in
Because it wasn't cool
class.
to be smart, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't cool
the older I got, it had to be like, oh, I don't really care.
Yep, that's the attitude in government schools. I remember that from elementary school. More coming up here on the story on the things that would be different in the absence of compulsory education.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correa, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Facebook and its family of apps have begun to reconnect to the global internet hours after they went dark. The outage began first thing in the morning on Monday in California, where the company is headquartered, and billions of people across the globe were affected. Silicon Valley correspondent Rachel Silverman has more.
The outage marooned billions of users who rely on the social media giant and its apps for everything from connecting with friends to running their businesses and logging into websites. The monitoring group Down Detector says this was the largest failure of its kind. What caused it is under investigation. Security experts say the disruption could be the result of an internal mistake. Sabotage by an insider is also possible. Facebook issued an apology to users on Twitter. Rachel Silverman, Oakland.
U.S. stocks kicked off the trading week with some steep losses led by steep declines for the tech sector. China's economy, trade tensions, and COVID-19 are also weighing on the minds of investors. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Rising bond yields continue to impact investor sentiment, prompting another day of losses for the tech sector. Facebook shares fell nearly 5% Monday after a whistleblower accused the company of putting profits over the public good. To compound the social media giant's woes, Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram all reported outages on Monday. The tech-heavy Nasdaq slipped 2.1% by the close of trading. The Dow Jones fell 0.9% and the S&P dropped 1.3%.
A new trove of documents has revealed the offshore deals and assets of 35 world leaders and hundreds of public officials and billionaires. The Pandora Papers were leaked by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or ICIJ, in Washington. It's the largest in a series of major financial data leaks that have hit the offshore wealth market since 2013. FSN's Carolyn Malone reports.
The Pandora Papers include nearly 12 million confidential files that show how global leaders and billionaires have hidden their assets in tax havens, including the Cayman Islands, Dubai, Monaco, Panama and Switzerland. Among them are Jordan's King Abdullah II, who through companies registered as tax havens bought 14 homes in the UK and US. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is publicly against corruption, but the papers show that he and close relatives have amassed more than $30 million of offshore wealth. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected to clean up his country, is also named in the leak. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not, but numerous of his close associates, including a childhood friend known as the wallet for Putin's wealth, is named. The United States also emerged as a leading tax haven, with the file suggesting the state of South Dakota has sheltered billions of dollars in wealth, including for people previously accused of financial crimes.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more depth at problems in the international supply chain that are leading to shortages of goods in a wide variety of countries. In the US, it's become impossible to source timber for construction. In the UK, there have, of course, been petrol shortages over the last 2 weeks. In Germany, shortages of metal, plastic and paper products are denting economic growth. What is going on?
It's Economics 101. If you constrain supply, so because ports are congested, ports are closed for COVID reasons, we can't move our transport workers around, and you massively increase demand, which we've seen, you're going to get this real fractions of the supply chain going forward.
Guy Platten is the Secretary General of the International Chamber of Shipping.
Some ships are waiting weeks before they can go and discharge, and that has knock-on effects. So if you just look over the west coast of the United States, see the number of ships trying to get into the Los Angeles port, and it's just huge. And of course, there's loads of congestions within the port. That's the same in the UK as well, Felixstowe and other places as well. So you're getting this knock-on delays, and each delay then means that the goods aren't in the shops when people need to have them.
He says in the UK, the situation is exacerbated by Brexit and unnecessary bureaucratic delays allowing truck drivers from Europe to reach Britain. But problems are being experienced worldwide, with one poll of German companies showing executives don't expect an easing of the crisis until next year. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. Facebook and its family of apps begin to reconnect to the global internet after an outage that affected billions of people across the globe. U.S. stocks kick off the trading week with some steep losses led by the tech sector. China's economy, trade tensions, and COVID-19 are also weighing on the minds of investors. And a trove of documents reveals the offshore deals and assets of 35 world leaders and hundreds of public officials. That is the latest feature story news.
Following reports that local full-blown alcoholic Ken Matheson has such great friends that let him drink himself to death right before their eyes, the 32-year-old man spoke to reporters during a typical evening of binging with his closest friends.
Man, these guys are like brothers to me. I don't know what I'd do without them.
The chemically dependent man, who can reportedly always count on his friends to look the other way, facilitate belligerent behavior, and encourage his self-destructive impulses, informed reporters that the members of his tight-knit circle are, quote, the best buddies a guy could ask for.
Can you just shut the fuck up? Seriously. Just shut the fuck up. I lost back then. Keep going. What the fuck are you looking at? I love you, man. I love you.
Check this week's Onion Review for further developments.
I love you. Oh, God, I love everybody.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program here. Of course, you can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
Talking about education, specifically, what would it be like in the absence of government coercion? And this is a conversation we've definitely had in the past over the years on Free Talk Live, and now the Foundation for Economic Education is weighing in. Bonnie's sharing that particular story. But, just imagine if the government gang wasn't mandating kids learn A, B, and C, and wasn't mandating that they go to some room together in a institutionalized building or institutionalized chain link fenced with barbed wire on the top facility because
they look just like prisons now.
Yeah, that's a thing. If they weren't mandating that and the marketplace could actually provide education, what exactly would that look like? What would some of the benefits be?
And I realize that colleges and universities, they're all backed by government in general.
Almost all of them.
Yeah. But I expect the public school system would look a lot more like that, where kids can pick the subject they're interested in, and just take courses that are mostly, at least, related to that particular subject.
Well, I mean, maybe, or maybe it wouldn't look anything like it because, college campuses are still this sort of mentality of, oh, we got to be on this one place together in this huge, facility with all these bureaucrats and, teachers or whatever. Maybe schools would be even smaller than they currently are today. Maybe they'd be focused. Maybe we'd have the whole range. Maybe there'd be these huge, big ass campuses and then little single house schoolhouses, with I know like Sudbury schools are an interesting thing that I learned about.
What's that?
It started in Massachusetts. There were a couple of guys that lived here in Keene that I met years ago that went to a Sudbury school, and they told me all about it, and it was really interesting. The model of the Sudbury school, it's almost like an unschooling school. So as I explained earlier, unschooling is kind of like where it's child-directed learning. You let the kid just kind of learn whatever they want at whatever pace they want to. And a Sudbury school is like that, except there's an actual schoolhouse that they go to. And so what happens at the Sudbury school is, as I understand it, you get a whole range of student ages. So you may have in one room people who are, little kids all the way up to senior age, high school.
Okay.
And what that allows for is, it's something most people find, counterintuitive. Wait, what?
Like the little kids see the older kids doing something cool,
yes,
and they're like, "Ooh, I want to learn how to do that."
And then the older kids can teach them if they feel like it. Can help the younger kids learn whatever the thing they want to learn. So there's sort of intergenerational or interage learning, and it helps to have. When you're a kid, and if all you're around is other kids your age, you're going to behave more like a kid.
Yeah.
But if you're around older people who are more mature, then you may find it more interesting to try to mature, sooner rather than later. So actually keeping kids together with kids isn't a good idea. It's not realistic, right? Like in how much of, they say school's about training you for real life. What a load. How many real
none
life...
of us, there's like a decade separating me and you and a decade separating Bonnie and me.
Yeah, and when you're at your workplace or whatever, how many times are you ever working with only people who are within 12 months of your, your age?
Never. At
Never
any point in my
happens
entire
in
life.
reality, ever. So, being in a schoolroom. Anyway, I thought that was cool. That's so you basically you're sending your kids to a schoolroom and they kind of learn at their own pace. The other interesting thing that they told me about it was that the kids actually run the school. So what I mean by that is if there's somebody that they need to hire for a janitor, the kids do the hiring. So they do the interviewing of the potential candidates to take whatever job. It could also be to hire like an expert. So if they want to learn about karate or they want to learn about fill in the blank bugs or whatever, they would, they'd look at the different applications from the people that want to come teach about this thing or come do a job at the school, and they are the ones who decide through the democratic process in their case who to hire, which is interesting.
That's all really cool.
Yeah, so it gives them like control, literal total control over their education.
And I mean, that way they're invested in choosing the right person because the right person is going to actually, it's not some school board picking the right person or some bureaucracy.
It's not top down, it's bottom up.
It's the people who's going to actually be affected by the choice.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, those things exist now. They're out there today. It's just we would have more innovation like that, more people trying new things. And I suspect that's some of what Foundation for Economic Education is going to tell us here. So go ahead, Bonnie.
Yep, we left off where they were saying history books detailing the common school movement pushed the myth that people were all illiterate before there was compulsory, mandated schools. And it says, in truth, literacy rates were quite high, particularly in Massachusetts, where the first compulsory schooling statute was passed in 1852.
Oh, so Massachusetts has always just sort of been
the worst.
Like Massachusetts. Yeah.
Historians Bowles and Gintis report that approximately 3/4 of the total U.S. population, including slaves, were literate.
Including slaves. Wow. Okay.
There was a panoply of education.
I imagine a significant portion of the 25% that weren't literate
Probably
were
the
slaves.
Yeah.
There was a panoply of education options prior to mass compulsory schooling, including an array of public and private schooling options, charity schools for the poor, robust apprenticeship models, and homeschooling. This latter approach being the preferred method of Massachusetts education reformer Horace Mann, who homeschooled his own 3 children while mandating common school attendance for others.
Sounds about right.
That's so true
like
today, too. A lot of teachers send their kids to private schools. Teachers who work at government schools,
because they know how bad it is.
Yeah, significant numbers of them send their own children to private schools.
And not to mention politicians.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like all their kids go to private schools.
Yep.
The primary catalyst for compulsory schooling was a wave of massive immigration in the early to mid-1800s that made lawmakers fearful. Many of these immigrants were Irish Catholics escaping the deadly potato famine, and they threatened the predominantly Anglo-Saxon Protestant social order of the time.
That's right.
Oh, so
it's a religious conflict.
They needed to homogenize them.
Yeah, well, they wanted to stop the Catholics from educating. They wanted to,
They wanted to make them drop their Irish culture that was going to educate them in, Irish Catholicism. And no, you have to be one of us.
Yep.
In 1851, the editor of the Massachusetts Teacher, William Swan, wrote, "In too many instances, the parents are unfit guardians of their own children. If left to their direction, the young will be brought up in idle, dissolute, vagrant habits, which will make them worse members of society than their parents are. Instead of filling our public schools, they will find their way into our prisons, houses of correction, and almshouses."
So it was literally just racist fear-mongering.
But this is going to be the excuse that would be used today. So if somebody proposes we should get rid of government compulsory education, the same propaganda is going to come about. Oh my God, if you don't have the government forcing kids to go to school, they're just going to play video games all day.
Their parents aren't fit to teach them.
Yeah, but there are people who make tons of money just playing video games all day.
That's true. That's a comeback we didn't have 20 years ago or whatever. But then that goes back to the points that I was talking about with the Sudbury School. One of the guys actually, I had them address this question, because this is always what comes up if you talk about getting rid of the government schools. It's like, well, okay, what happens if some kid just wants to play video games all day? Because that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that kid does exist. And one of them said, yeah, that was me. The kid said that he was grown up at the time when I talked to him. He said that he had actually gone to government school for most of his life. And then in high school, his parents put him into the Sudbury School. And so because he was in a place where learning sucked and it sucked all the fun out of, actually learning things, he did want to play video games all. He's like, hell yeah, I can play. Wait, you're telling me I can play video games all day in this school? Yeah, sign me up. All right, where's the Nintendo? And so he started doing that. But then what he noticed was that all these kids around him, his peers, were actually learning things and having fun at learning and advancing and getting smarter. And he put down the controller on his own volition after a little while. I mean, he did play some games.
Sure.
And then after a little while, he realized maybe he should learn a thing.
Awesome.
Nice.
So I think that would happen on a societal level with people wanting to beat out the Joneses, so to speak. More coming up here in moments. 603-283-6160. Or you can choose to be a poor loser for your whole life.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, open phones. If you want to join us here, the number is 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
And by the way, I want to let you know about Intercoin. It has launched worldwide, and they can help any business or organization launch their own currency or raise money using your own token. So if there's a token you want to launch or an app you want to build, go to intercoin.org. You can enter your email there, and the team at Intercoin will get in touch and learn about your needs. And while you're there, if you want, you can get some of the Intercoin investor tokens for yourself. Head over to intercoin.org as we're going to go to your calls and thoughts. Then we'll continue with Bonnie has a story she's sharing with us from the Foundation for Economic Education about what life could be like, what the educational world would be like if we didn't have coercion behind it, if we didn't have government mandates by threats of violence. And if you don't think there's a threat of violence behind the government education system, try not paying the property tax bill, or try not sending your kids to government school and see what happens. At some point, some men in badges are going to be pounding on your door. It's only a matter of time.
If not taking your children away.
Yeah, they can do that too. And likely putting them in a scary foster home with questionable people who might lock them in closets or molest them or God knows what other terrible things, starve them. Let's go to Jill, though, in Virginia. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Hello. I know someone who homeschools her children, only they're growing older now, but I mean, she'll homeschool them for a few more years, I guess, till they all finish. But I asked her if they had to take some kind of test to be allowed to be doing that once in a while, and she told me they didn't have to because they had a religious exemption.
Nice. Well, different states have different rules about this. So places like California are almost completely not quite outlawing homeschooling. Like that, you've got to jump through a ridiculous amount of hoops. There's a lot of government obedience. Like you got to submit educational plans to the government if you're going to do homeschooling, and if you don't jump through their hoops, they come after you with criminal charges or whatever. And then there's places like New Hampshire and some other states that are more friendly towards homeschooling and require very little of parents by comparison.
I thought I was a street vendor for 27 years. I thought if I had a kid of my own, I'd try to get him homeschooled. I mean, what I would do probably is take him to work with me. That's what I thought. And I could teach him his letters and stuff like that, and read to him too, and so forth, in between orders. Of course, it might be necessary to slap him occasionally if he tried to interrupt business while I was serving a customer. But anyway, I never had a child. I've never been married, but...
Well, that's good. I tend to believe that if you think slapping children is a solution, you shouldn't have kids. So I'm glad you didn't.
I don't go hold with brutality, but I'm not against a certain amount of corporal
Did your parents hit you?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I figured.
My mother administered the formal spanking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got spanked as a kid, and I'm not
My mother
messed up.
spanked, my father slapped.
Okay.
Both of those, I would argue, are unacceptable ways of handling children.
Totally agree with you there.
My sister thinks she has PTSD and it ruined her life getting spanked, but I also got spanked and I'm fine.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're so well adjusted, Bonnie. That's good, because a lot of people get pretty effed up because of that. And Jill just dropped off the line, I think. Jill?
I mean, what spanking teaches people is when someone does something you don't like.
That violence is the solution.
Yes.
Yeah. And somehow you managed to not take that lesson away from it, Bonnie. So I think you got lucky.
I just learned not to use the compartment in the back of my dad's van for a trash can and leave a rotting hamburger in there.
I got spanked a few times as well, but only like twice, I think.
See, I rarely got spanked.
Okay, that's good to know.
Too.
But you leaving some trash in a cabinet was the reason for spanking?
I would be like, I want a cheeseburger when we go out to eat, and then I would throw it into this thing in the back of my dad's van. That's what the thing I remember getting spanked for, but I'm sure I got spanked for other things.
And then they found it later, and it was gross.
Yeah,
and they were upset.
I was just like, that was my trash can. In my brain, it was just like it disappeared when I put it in that thing.
Right. Well, a lot of people say they only spank when it's like the worst possible transgression, and I gotta say that doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound like making the kid lose some sort of privilege wouldn't be, because there's all kinds of
a human should be easier to train than a dog, but I've been managing to train my dog just fine without ever spanking
without
her.
hitting it. Yeah.
I don't think you should spank a dog.
Agreed, totally.
The thing I do to Coconut is I poke at him, but it doesn't hurt him. I point at his face because he hates being pointed at.
All right, let's continue, Bonnie. You've got this story here from Foundation for Economic Education. It is about life without compulsory education. What would it be like?
So just to finish this quote by the guy that was saying that we need compulsory, or we need public schools, because otherwise if we don't school these Irish immigrants' kids, then they'll grow up to be even worse than their parents are. He says, nothing can operate effectually here but stringent legislation, thoroughly carried out by an efficient police. The children must be gathered up.
That doesn't exist. Efficient police?
The children must be gathered up and forced into school, and those who resist or impede this plan, whether parents or priests, must be held accountable and punished.
And this was all because a bunch of Irish people came here because they were starving during a famine, so they arrived here poor and destitute and, trying to build better lives for themselves.
And started their own schools.
Yes. And he was like, this is not okay.
Yeah, that was William Swan from Massachusetts back in the day.
So that's where this started. According to the story, it was Massachusetts was one of the key locations for starting government compulsory education. Not surprised.
It goes on to say, this isn't the quote anymore, "This is the true history of compulsory schooling that rarely emerges behind the veil of social magnanimity." So what would happen if these inherently flawed compulsory schooling laws were eliminated? Number one, a power shift. First, people would tilt away from the state and toward family. Without legal force compelling school attendance, parents would have the freedom and flexibility to assume full responsibility for their child's education.
Which is how it should be anyway. I mean, too much of raising children is being pushed onto the school system. I mean, as early as preschool, people are they're having children and then not raising them. They're turning them over to the state to be raised.
Yep, and in some cases, they don't want that, and some people are just like, that's what they want, to just have a babysitter. It says they would not need government permission to homeschool, as is currently required in the majority of U.S. states.
Mm-hmm.
Private schools would not need to submit their attendance records to the state to show compliance. Public schools could still be available to those who wanted them, as they were prior to the 1852 law, but government schooling would no longer be the default education option.
Yeah, well, I would appreciate them not having compulsory education as far as attendance. That seems to be what they're talking about here. But also, I don't want to pay for it either. I'm not interested.
I don't either.
So I don't know if they're addressing that in this particular story. This sounds more about the compulsory rules surrounding education.
Yeah, my position is if someone wants to have a child, then they should be either willing to educate that child or pay someone to educate that child, not outsource that to me.
Yep. More choices is the second thing. As more education choices sprouted, competition with lower prices, making access to these new choices widespread. Because the state would no longer need to bless the creation of various private schools and ratify their curriculum and attendance protocols, an assortment of education options would emerge. Entrepreneurial educators would seize the opportunity to create new and varied products and services, and parents would be the ones responsible for determining quality and effectiveness, not the state.
And that is what I was saying when I predicted this is going to be one of the biggies, because I forget who described it this way. It would be like letting 1,000 educational flowers bloom. All these different things that have never been tried before. People get to try. You want an atheist education? You could have it. More coming up.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Facebook and its family of apps have begun to reconnect to the global internet hours after they went dark. The outage began first thing in the morning on Monday in California, where the company is headquartered, and billions of people across the globe were affected. Silicon Valley correspondent Rachel Silverman has more.
The outage marooned billions of users who rely on the social media giant and its apps for everything from connecting with friends to running their businesses and logging into websites. The monitoring group Down Detector says this was the largest failure of its kind. What caused it is under investigation. Security experts say the disruption could be the result of an internal mistake. Sabotage by an insider is also possible. Facebook issued an apology to users on Twitter. Rachel Silverman, Oakland.
U.S. stocks kicked off the trading week with some steep losses led by steep declines for the tech sector. China's economy, trade tensions, and COVID-19 are also weighing on the minds of investors. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Rising bond yields continue to impact investor sentiment, prompting another day of losses for the tech sector. Facebook shares fell nearly 5% Monday after a whistleblower accused the company of putting profits over the public good. To compound the social media giant's woes, Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram all reported outages on Monday. The tech-heavy Nasdaq slipped 2.1% by the close of trading. The Dow Jones fell 0.9% and the S&P dropped 1.3%.
A new trove of documents has revealed the offshore deals and assets of 35 world leaders and hundreds of public officials and billionaires. The Pandora Papers were leaked by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or ICIJ, in Washington. It's the largest in a series of major financial data leaks that have hit the offshore wealth market since 2013. FSN's Carolyn Malone reports.
The Pandora Papers include nearly 12 million confidential files that show how global leaders and billionaires have hidden their assets in tax havens, including the Cayman Islands, Dubai, Monaco, Panama and Switzerland. Among them are Jordan's King Abdullah II, who through companies registered as tax havens bought 14 homes in the UK and US. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is publicly against corruption, but the papers show that he and close relatives have amassed more than $30 million of offshore wealth. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected to clean up his country, is also named in the leak. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not, but numerous of his close associates, including a childhood friend known as the Wallet for Putin's wealth, is named. The United States also emerged as a leading tax haven, with the file suggesting the state of South Dakota has sheltered billions of dollars in wealth, including for people previously accused of financial crimes.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, it's Free Talk Live, and the phones are open here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Bonnie,
and Aria.
We're talking about education absent the coercive aspect, which none of us have ever had the opportunity to experience that in the United States in our lifetimes, because mandatory government indoctrination goes all the way back to the 1800s, as Bonnie was explaining from this story at Foundation for Economic Education, which we are going to continue. But I do want to let you know about Odyssey. And Odyssey is an amazing platform based on an even more amazing protocol. And it's the protocol that is the most important thing about Odyssey. The protocol is called Library, LBRY. You can go to lbry.com and learn more about that. Basically, it's a uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol. It means that you can upload whatever media content you want to this platform or to this protocol, and no one can tell you you can't. There's no one who can take it down. There's no one who can censor it, and that is an amazing thing. So we've been on Library for a long time. Library launched Odyssey like over a year ago, maybe almost 2 years ago now at this point. And they now are one of the top technology sites out there, basically. There's millions of users.
Awesome.
There's over 1 million creators, I believe, on Odyssey. It's really gaining steam. And that's because sites like YouTube are taking people down. And yeah, we're streaming on YouTube tonight. But we may
maybe
not. Yeah,
we haven't checked.
Well, I see people commenting, so
okay.
That usually means that we are. So thank you for watching us on whatever platform you're watching us on, whether it be Twitch or DLive or YouTube. But if you want to watch us on the most secure, the best platform out there, it's Odyssey, because it is on the Library protocol. And you really ought to take some time to check it out. Go to video.freetalklive.com. You can follow our channel there. Subscribe to us. That's video.freetalklive.com. And yes, we do stream there, and that is where our video archives go. Yeah, sometimes they end up on YouTube, but like I said, they can take that whole channel down. If Odyssey were to decide that they, for whatever reason, didn't want us streaming on their platform anymore, because they can still control the streaming side of things, they can't do anything about us uploading videos to the Library protocol. That channel will always be there, as long as people care about it. As long as people are following it and watching those videos and helping us share them, then they stay. So check it out at video.freetalklive.com. Bonnie, let's continue with your story from Fee.
We're on the second bullet point of what would happen without compulsory schooling laws. This one is more choices.
Like way more choices.
Which makes sense, because if you force everyone to use this one choice, then they're...
And pay for it.
And if you stop doing that, people will come up with better solutions.
Yep.
Entrepreneurial educators would seize the opportunity to create new and varied products and services, and parents would be the ones responsible for determining the quality and effectiveness, not the state. With less government red tape, current trends in education would gain more momentum. Virtual schooling, part-time school options. I hadn't even really thought about that. That's one thing that is lacking. Just like parents who, they could work half the week, but they can't, they could send their kids away for part of the week and work the other half instead of like, say, there's lots of people that say like, I can't homeschool because my kids are, or, I can't do anything, because I have to work. My kids have to go to preschool and
Sounds
school.
like they weren't ready to have children.
Yeah.
Or they haven't really thought too hard about what their options might be.
Also true.
Because if you get together with other parents who are also limited in time, then you could fund like a Sudbury school. You know? You could have the kids go over to one parent's house every day or whatever, then when they've got their day off and sort of move the school around. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. So a lot of these people, they just give up. They just figure, oh, well, I've got to go to work.
Which again, they weren't ready to have children.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to have children, that should be your priority until that child is grown. Not your job. I understand you have to work your job so you can feed that child, but getting that child the most secure and best education, that's more important than your job. Sorry.
A really Christian lady came up to me at the protest meeting and went to the other day and was talking to me for a long time. And whenever Ian came close to us, I was like, oh, that's my boyfriend. That's Ian. She was like, oh, your children will be beautiful. Have you chosen a date to start having them yet? And
Good Lord.
That was crazy, but I've never...
You didn't tell her I had a vasectomy.
No, I was just like, not yet. But, yeah, that was kind of crazy.
This is, by the way, one of the reasons why having children is so popular, beyond just the natural human instinct to reproduce, is there's this kind of... I don't know what the word I'm looking for is.
There's massive societal pressure to hook up with someone in a heterosexual monogamous relationship and then produce offspring.
There's societal pressure, and some of that societal pressure comes in the form of this pumping up of someone's ego, right? It's like, oh, you should have kids not because of X, Y, or Z, your reasons for having kids, whatever those might be. You should have them because they'll be beautiful. Oh, your kids will just be so great. And that's really more of a pump up to the parent, right? Like that's a pump on their ego of, oh yeah, I never really thought about it. My kids would be so great and so attractive. That person thinks I'm good looking. I should reproduce.
My parents told me that before they had kids, they used to always talk about how attractive their kids would be. And everybody must think that because they probably don't think they're ugly.
That's a terrible reason to have children.
That's what I'm saying. There's a huge drive towards that. It's like it's all about the parent. It's not about the kid. It's all about the parent having the ability to have attractive children or to have their son succeed where they failed, or they'll live vicariously through their kids. And I don't know if I think those are the right motivations.
I don't think they are.
In conversations with people about why they want to have kids, I used to always just say like the idea of like having a kid is really scary, so I wouldn't be opposed to just adopting. And people would often say, yeah, but I want to have my own kid. And I would always say, what's the difference though? Like that's kind of like sad. That's a sad way of thinking. Like
I never understood that either. My ex-wife and I, we planned to adopt instead of having our own kid, and she insisted that we would also have to have our own kid. One of the reasons we're not still together. I don't understand the difference.
Yeah, well, are you going to think that one's better than the one you adopted?
Almost certainly they
would.
do.
They would, because it's part of them. It's all about ego. It's all about reproducing themselves.
It's all about convincing themselves that they're somehow enduring their death.
I think so.
It's just a fear of death for them.
Maybe
I need
that's
to feel
a factor.
that I'm continuing my existence.
I bet that is. Okay, but...
And there's so much pressure. There's so much. Sorry, go ahead.
Going back to the more choices, if there was less...
No one ever asked me when I'm having kids, so maybe being trans is beneficial. I haven't been asked that in like 5 years at least.
People ask me, do I have kids a lot? But it's not usually did you plan a date yet? And she also kept, whenever I told her Ian was my boyfriend that I lived with, she kept calling him my future husband and said, hey, I've been talking to your future wife here. She's so great. Because she didn't want to just like admit.
Well, she views the world through one cultural lens.
Yes, yeah.
So everything has to get interpreted that way.
Go on.
Okay, so more choices. More choices would emerge without compulsory schooling laws. Virtual schooling, part-time school options, hybrid homeschooling models, and an array of private schools with diverse education approaches would emerge. As more education choices sprouted, competition with lower prices, making access to these new choices more widespread. Number 3, more pathways to adulthood. Without the state mandating school...
Before you go on, I think that one important thing to say about this is, and they did touch on charitable education, is a big objection is always, well, what about the poor? Oh, poor people won't get educated. Well, no, that's not true either. Number one, prices will drop because of open competition. They'll drop to the point of being incredibly affordable, but there will still be free education available for those who need it because people think that matters. Because that's the number one concern or one of the top concerns of people when you bring up getting the government out of education, you know it matters to people to educate the poor. So you know people will donate towards educating the poor.
Good point. If it's a concern to you, will you donate money so that it's not an issue?
Yeah. Duh. Anyway, we'll continue here in a moment. 603-283-6160. That's the other thing I was saying. Like, yeah, you want to give somebody an atheist education? You want to give them an ultra-right-wing Christian education? You want to give them a, hippie education? They'll all be available in the free market. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number 603-283-6160. Maybe enough time for you to call in right now. Here tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
Freedom's Phoenix is a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. If you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty, then freedomsphoenix.com has them. You get the Daily Dispatch, and you'll stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. It's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com. Bonnie, you're sharing with us 4 ways, I think it was, that that education would change dramatically in the absence of state coercion. The one we were talking about, I think we were done with that one, was the
more choices.
The choices, that we'll have so many more. So where was the third one that we were going to get to?
More pathways to adulthood.
And this is from Foundation for Economic Education.
Without the state mandating school attendance for most of childhood, in some states up to age 18, there would be new pathways to adulthood that wouldn't rely so heavily on state-issued high school diplomas. Innovative apprenticeship models would be created, community colleges would cater more toward independent teenage learners, and career preparation programs would expand.
Let's be clear. Nothing relies on a high school diploma.
No, I have never been asked for mine.
It's all BS. The idea that anybody needs a high school diploma to get along and get in, move up in the world, it's false.
Yeah, my grandma, she didn't graduate high school, and she just put in her college application, I graduated from this high school, and she went to college.
Not even the college checked it?
She went to college without graduating high school.
Wow. I was just talking about like getting a job or whatever. No one cares.
Says, as the social reformer Paul Goodman wrote in his book New Reformation, our aim should be to multiply the paths of growing up instead of narrowing the one existing school path.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth is a broader definition of education. In his biography of Horace Mann, historian Jonathan Mercelli explains how compulsory schooling contracted a once expansive definition of education into the singular definition of schooling. Indeed, today's education is almost universally associated with schooling.
Yeah, that's a good point. The idea of, if you're not sitting in a room somewhere with a person standing at the front and a blackboard or a projector or whatever the hell whiteboard they're using these days, then you're not being educated. And that's nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, like learning to cook is education.
Which you can do on your own.
Yeah, I've learned significantly more on my own than I ever did in a schoolroom.
Absolutely. I've learned more from hosting this show and listening to callers and reading things online.
Oh, talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just learning from a book.
Talking to people who have different experiences and that want to share that.
Mercelli writes that in enlarging the European concept of schooling might narrow the real parameters of education by enclosing it within the 4 walls of the public school classroom. I feel I didn't read that wrong. It sounded weird though. Eliminating compulsory schooling laws would break the century-and-a-half stranglehold of schooling on education. It would help to disentangle education from schooling and reveal many other ways to be educated, such as through non-coercive, self-directed education or unschooling. Even the most adamant education reformers often stop short of advocating for abolishing compulsory schooling statutes, arguing that it wouldn't make much of a difference. But stripping the state of its power to define, control, and monitor something as beautifully broad as education would have a large and lasting impact on re-empowering families, encouraging educational entrepreneurs, and creating more choice and opportunity for all learners.
Yeah, we don't need state bureaucrats thinking it's their business what your kids are learning.
No, and if people really think that, public education is really that good of an idea, then it doesn't need to be compulsory, does it?
Precisely. People would choose it of their own volition.
But I don't think they would.
No, hell no.
I suspect that most people would choose some alternative or create the alternative themselves.
Yeah, and this would give them the freedom to do that. And if we get enough people together who believe like this, then this can be possible. We did see what they call, I believe, educational savings accounts or something like that being created, or school savings accounts.
It has the word freedom account.
Education freedom account. I think that's what it's called.
Is that thing here in New Hampshire?
That's in New Hampshire. That, I believe, came about in the last year or two. Maybe it might have been this summer when that passed, actually.
Yeah, that was really recent.
Yeah, and so Free Staters, liberty activists here helped move that thing forward. So bringing freedom, and as I understand it, it reserves some number of thousands of dollars for parents that want to send their kids to private school.
That would otherwise go to public school for that child.
Yeah, I don't know if it counts for homeschool. It might as well for homeschool, but it's worth looking into if you're, if you're a parent and you want to look at other options for your kids. It's still,
because you're already being taxed. You might as well get the money back.
You might as well get it back. And so check that out. That's a cool thing. But that's only become possible because we have enough people that care about education freedom in this place, in this geographic area. So if we can get more people together that are like that, then we can really neuter the state educational apparatus. And let me tell you, the people that love the state, the people that are the government mandate people, those folks, they hate this. They hate they're caterwauling on social media.
But they can still go to public school.
They can.
It's just another the compulsory laws, I think, are just a way for people to get their hands on your kids, as in like obviously to shape and define who they are, but also it's a way for them to easily take them away from you. Like, oh, little Johnny was sick.
He said you smoked weed. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, Aria. It's not about you being free to make that choice or them being free to choose how to do with their kids. It's about them indoctrinating your kids. That's what makes them angry. They hate that parents are taking their kids out of the government school system. They hate that the government school system is losing control over homeschoolers and that those things are becoming deregulated, because it means they don't have control and they don't get to, whisper in these kids' ears with whatever crazy crap that they're teaching them.
Sounds like an improvement to me.
Yeah, it totally is. So, again, more people need to get up here to New Hampshire. If you're a freedom-minded person, if you understand what liberty is, if you're a libertarian, a voluntarist, or an anarchist, liberty-loving anarchist, you got to start planning to get up here, because numbers are everything that makes a difference. That's the only reason why the things that we've done here have become possible and are becoming more and more possible. It's very exciting.
Can we all say what we got out of Gremlins?
Yes, we definitely have to talk about Gremlins. You and I went. It was your first time, Bonnie.
Yeah, I've never seen Gremlins.
Aria, you ended up saying you do recall seeing it at some point.
I've definitely
in the past.
seen it at some point.
I had seen it, I think, in probably the 80s or 90s as a kid. I did rent it within the last decade, so I had seen it somewhat recently. And it's a fun movie. It
is. I loved how they weren't really like malicious or evil. They were
they're quite nasty.
Yeah, but I don't think they had any sort of moral compass. They were just agents of absolute chaos.
Destruction, yeah.
They did Christmas caroling.
The only time I saw them actually being evil was when they were torturing Gizmo. The rest of it was just wanton destruction and chaos.
Well, I mean, Stripe, the bad guy, did come after the hero of the story with a chainsaw.
Hasn't finished.
I haven't finished yet.
Well, he does come after. You're in the last 15 minutes.
But that's just chaos. Taking a nice, organized human being and turning them to splattered organs everywhere. That's just chaotic.
He shoots at him too. So I mean, there is some element of danger, even though it's a very fun romp. It's a fun movie, and I think your mom said it was stupid or something. You were telling me that.
Yeah, I never saw it as a kid just because my mom said it was stupid. It wasn't like she was against it for Christian reasons or anything.
It is stupid. It's a stupid movie, and it's a lot of fun.
I was thinking the whole time, it reminds me kind of like a good classic pop song. Like you want to watch it, it's fun for your endorphins or whatever, but it's not
not
art.
Deep.
Yeah, not deep.
I
exactly.
mean, it's art. It's definitely art because it took a lot of talent
it was art. I don't know
to
why
make this movie.
It's not deep, yeah.
And Joe Dante, the director, I've enjoyed the movies I've seen of him. He did a movie called Small Soldiers in the late 1990s, which is kind of similar to Gremlins. It's like toys.
Was that the toy fighting thing?
Toys fighting each other, good toys versus bad toys. So kind of similar themes there. And one of my favorite movies, The Burbs, with Tom Hanks from the late 80s. But this movie, if you haven't seen Gremlins, check it out. There's talk about Gremlins 3 coming around.
Which is good because I distinctly remember Gremlins 2, and I loved the hell out of it. I may watch it tonight.
I don't remember if I saw that one because I remember watching Gremlins 1 within the last decade, but I don't know if I watched Gremlins 2.
I was thinking to myself, like, if they made a sequel, it must suck. So now I'm kind of interested since you say it's
Gizmo
good.
gets hardcore in the sequel, man.
Oh, really?
He like makes a bow out of a paper clip, and it's awesome.
I like when Gizmo sings.
Yeah, he's adorable. I mean, everybody loves Gizmo, and it's just
he was the original Baby Yoda.
It's a movie where you can tell they had a lot of fun. You know, you can tell the filmmakers just had a blast with this and just did all kinds of silly stuff and put it on screen, and it really works.
And I liked like the innocence of it, kind of like the main characters. They were like really innocent. Almost everybody in the show was
not really. I mean, they saw how much pain it inflicted on Gizmo when they just spilled some water on him. And then they just kept doing it because
weird.
They wanted to produce more of this. So they weren't innocent.
That was weird. I didn't like that they kept doing that.
Cardboard Robot on Twitch says they need a World War II Gremlins prequel. It would be interesting to see, the history of the Gremlins. How did the old Chinese guy find them? Where did they come from in China or whatever? That would be kind of interesting. We'll see you tomorrow night. Online in the meantime, check us out, freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Facebook and its family of apps have begun to reconnect to the global internet hours after they went dark. The outage began first thing in the morning on Monday in California, where the company is headquartered, and billions of people across the globe were affected. Silicon Valley correspondent Rachel Silverman has more.
The outage marooned billions of users who rely on the social media giant and its apps for everything from connecting with friends to running their businesses and logging into websites. The monitoring group Down Detector says this was the largest failure of its kind. What caused it is under investigation. Security experts say the disruption could be the result of an internal mistake. Sabotage by an insider is also possible. Facebook issued an apology to users on Twitter. Rachel Silverman, Oakland.
U.S. stocks kicked off the trading week with some steep losses led by steep declines for the tech sector. China's economy, trade tensions, and COVID-19 are also weighing on the minds of investors. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Rising bond yields continue to impact investor sentiment, prompting another day of losses for the tech sector. Facebook shares fell nearly 5% Monday after a whistleblower accused the company of putting profits over the public good. To compound the social media giant's woes, Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram all reported outages on Monday. The tech-heavy Nasdaq slipped 2.1% by the close of trading. The Dow Jones fell 0.9% and the S&P dropped 1.3%.
A new trove of documents has revealed the offshore deals and assets of 35 world leaders and hundreds of public officials and billionaires. The Pandora Papers were leaked by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or ICIJ, in Washington. It's the largest in a series of major financial data leaks that have hit the offshore wealth market since 2013. FSN's Carolyn Malone reports.
The Pandora Papers include nearly 12 million confidential files that show how global leaders and billionaires have hidden their assets in tax havens, including the Cayman Islands, Dubai, Monaco, Panama and Switzerland. Among them are Jordan's King Abdullah II, who through companies registered as tax havens bought 14 homes in the UK and US. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is publicly against corruption, but the papers show that he and close relatives have amassed more than $30 million of offshore wealth. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected to clean up his country, is also named in the leak. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not, but numerous of his close associates, including a childhood friend known as the wallet for Putin's wealth, is named. The United States also emerged as a leading tax haven, with the file suggesting the state of South Dakota has sheltered billions of dollars in wealth, including for people previously accused of financial crimes.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Saying that he has no idea what to make of the mixed signals, area man Pete Summers told reporters today he keeps getting ambiguous text messages from local woman Haley Mueller, claiming that she's not at all interested in him.
One minute she's like, I don't want to go out with you. And then she'll mention how she has to go hang out with her boyfriend. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that?
Summers, who first met Mueller at a friend's party last month, informed reporters that the 27-year-old's increasingly perplexing text messages have left him unable to ascertain whether or not she would want to date him. He also noted that Mueller's behavior at social gatherings was equally vague.
Last weekend, we were at a party, and every time I would go up to her, she just said, "Leave me alone." Then I text her the next day, and she totally doesn't even respond. I mean, she just needs to make up her mind and tell me what she wants. She hasn't answered my last 3 phone calls, so maybe I should go over there and make sure everything's okay.
This is the Onion News Network.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence is next, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
For Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.